Okay, hello everybody. No song again this week because I am not going to pay for it. Welcome to episode 39 of Gish Gallop Girl. We are on a Shot in the Dark episode 13, also known as the flu shot.
Oh,
because oops, finally. She did it again.
Wait, she's already done the...
We already did the flu shot episode 11, actually. 2 episodes ago was the flu shot where she didn't actually use the FluAd Insert.
Oh, right, yeah. See, I love my ability to block this shit out of my memory.
Wish I could. But yes, hello again, everybody. Welcome to episode 39 of Gish Gallop Girl. We are still in the Candace Owens series, A Shot in the Dark. And I am your long-suffering, anti-fascist, formerly Floridian, proud Minnesotan, tax-paying, law-abiding man that passes as a Caucasian but is secretly of the non-practicing cabal of Jewish people with more debt than money and less talent than most, with a penchant for self-harm by way of listening to the same Candace Owens clips over and over and over and over again, like some maniac watching NASCAR but without the expectation of a crash or bloodshed, Thomas Anderson. And with me is...
How the fuck am I supposed to follow that? I'm Matthew Anderson. I dress classy. That's all I got. I play D&D. I'm a fucking nerd.
Yeah.
Lord.
So I think my goal with long intros is to make people beg for the music they so dearly hated because it was made mostly by an AI. Anyway, I have to address 2 things before we really get into this today. And I'm hoping to let Matthew choose which one I talk about first. One is obvious, the other not at all. He doesn't know what's coming. Matthew, column A or column B? What do we talk about first?
Do I get a hint?
No.
Can I phone a dead relative?
No, nothing. You get nothing. Just like Charlie at the end of the excellent film, Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory.
To be honest, when you said Charlie, that's not the one I thought you were going to talk about.
Oh, we'll get there.
Shit. Why do I not have any coinage nearby when I need to make a decision? Fuck it, column B.
Oh, boy. Good one. Charlie Kirk got popped. Charlie Kirk got popped on September 10th, 2025. Oh. He died getting shot while doing what he loved, which was being shitty in public to trans persons. I watched his final moments on a loop until I felt nothing about it. He was a terrible person, and I wasn't entirely shocked to eventually learn, as we all have, that a person that didn't like him killed him. I've talked about this on Blue Sky and Twitter, and I dropped several people that I was following on Facebook on my real-life account for talking well of him. Those same people claimed that a leftist shot the man and never retracted their noise after the facts started coming out. I gave them a chance, they all blew it, and they doubled down on stupid in several ways, so they're all gone. I didn't get bombastic or say a word beyond what I tried to say, which was the simple idea that a possibly alt-right person shot him, but probably not a liberal. I left it there and shut them out when they refused to see reason on the matter. I have no time for Nazi sympathizers in this life. This matter only really came up in the context of this show because of the impact that Charlie Kirk had on the life of Candace Owens. He gave her first big boost with TPUSA and TPUK. She may not have met her husband without that leg up, and may not have been seen as a viable presenter for Daily Wire without Turning Point, and especially without Turning Point sponsoring her college Blexit focus. So her entire early celebrity gig kinda relies on his sources of funding. To say that they were close is putting it mildly. I don't think they were involved romantically, but they definitely had a close relationship. Candace is, of course, spinning every dumb conspiracy theory about his death. Fucking absurd as ever. Now, let's go to... Hold on a second. Okay, so... Now, column A, which you did not choose. Our last episode, episode 38, A Shot in the Dark, episode 12, might be taken off of YouTube at any time.
Oh?
The reason for this is actually kind of funny. So, we played the end of Candace's show in the last episode, and I really let everyone kind of marinate in the sauce of the ending theme music.
Yeah.
Well, it turns out that the ending theme music got a copyright strike.
Oh.
But the video hasn't been taken down as of this time. See, I found out after investigating why, is that the theme song Candace used is from a royalty-free library. But the library itself is a paid source. But, and this gets crazier, there are a large number of uses for copyrighted music, and YouTube is weird about enforcing copyright. However, I was told that I could contest the strike. So we're back. And this gets crazier. There are a large number of uses for copyrighted music, and YouTube is weird about enforcing copyright. However, I was told that I could contest the strike, and I did, on the grounds that we discussed it and basically reviewed it as a thing at the end of the episode. It takes 30 days on average for a decision, and the song owner hasn't demanded that I take down the video. It was just a conditional strike. Anyway, I think it's a hoot. If you're hearing this in the future and episode 38 has been removed for some reason, that is why. Just look for the episode on a podcast player or go to the gishgallupgirl.com website for links to episodes and players.
That is kind of funny, though, that I thought it would have been another misinformation thing again like it was last time.
Yeah, no. I was prepared for that, but it said copyright, and I was like, the fuck? And then I remembered that we had used ending theme music, and I was like, does her shit have an actual copyright to it? The answer is yes and no.
Now, what would have been funny is if it was her copyright on it, so she'd have to review it.
Yeah.
That would have been hilarious.
That would be great. Especially since she's been shut out and demonetized from YouTube. And she's been demonetized from YouTube, not shut out from YouTube, but demonetized, like, hardcore.
I know women on YouTube that practically do YouTube in nothing more than a G-string bikini.
Yeah.
And still have a YouTube without getting demonetized.
Yeah. So
the fact that you have to fuck up so royally bad that YouTube goes, okay.
Yeah.
We know we got the titty women over there, but
yeah,
you're spreading misinformation. We're going to need to shut you down.
Yeah. Now, if they start spreading misinformation, well,
Yeah.
So, moving on. This episode, as listeners may have noted at the title, is episode 13, The Flu Shot. Now, I'm sure many of you will recall, even though my son did not, that only about a month ago we covered the flu shot in her episode 11.
In my defense, that was a month.
You may recall it well, since it was only 2 episodes ago. But in Candace land, that was about a year or so of her life.
Christ.
She had done episode 11 on her Patreon.
Right.
Had her second kid. And then several months passed and she did episode 12, which was the last episode we tackled on polio. She put a lot of time between these episodes, and my first thought when I heard that this was on the flu shot, I was like, huh? Mm-hmm. I had to check the IMDb, and sure enough, it's episode 13, The Flu Shot. So of course I listened to it. It is a new episode in the run. She didn't just do a replay of the other episode.
I mean, that would have been... I mean, granted, a minor waste of time to review, but that would have been kind of funny.
Yeah, we could have skipped, like, right through it.
Yeah.
But she didn't just do a replay of the episode. It is better in a sense and worse in other ways, but we will all take the walk together down this path of damnation. I have chosen to only cut the intro and the outro from the episodes moving forward in this series because, for one thing, they don't change, and 2, I would rather not have more than 1 copyright strike if it isn't needed.
Yeah.
So, moving on, here is the first clip. Actually, it would help if I actually have volume on my thing. I just realized I did not do that yet. Okay. All right, here we go. All right, so this is the first clip. It is 2 minutes long.
All right, guys, welcome to another episode of A Shot in the Dark. Obviously, you guys have recognized that we have not been putting out the show on time. First and foremost, I want to say sorry to all of you, and I have to say also that I was pretty excited when I found out that you were sending rage emails and being like, I signed up for EW Plus for this, and it's not been out here, because we haven't really done much advertising for this show. We've let all of the following to happen naturally, and it's been amazing to see your response in wanting more of this content on something that really just came from my heart as a mother wanting to guide other new parents in this world of big pharma. So I appreciate your angry emails, and I also want to give you what is due, which is just, again, my apologies and also an explanation. Things have been insane here at the Daily Wire. We are expanding in so many ways. If you haven't found out, we're now jumping into kids content. Probably saw that we recently announced that we're doing our first full-length movie. We're doing series. So much going on behind the scenes. Me personally, I had Convicting a Murderer come out, which was sort of my first foray into true crime. We did a docu-series that was 10 episodes long, and it's sucked the living life out of me to get all of it done. It was a very exciting project, and we are very happy with the results of it. But yeah, we're just kind of foraying into new territory. And when I went on a tour to promote that, plus add to the fact that I am very pregnant, I'm 40 weeks pregnant, and I'm still here, something had to give, or I just felt like I was going to be buried. So the wonderful team here said, it is okay to put a temporary hiatus while you are on tour for Convicting a Murderer, a promotional tour that I was on. And this was unfortunately the thing that had to give, but it's the most important thing that I do. I love this so much. I love that you guys are loving this content. And I just want to better prepare you for this next leave of absence, which is obviously going to happen. We're probably going to give you about 4 more episodes, and then there will be a leave of absence for maternity leave, as I have my 3rd child, my son, which I am expecting any moment. He could come right now as we are filming right now. That is how soon I am actually due. But I'm going to try to give you a few back-to-back episodes. And today we are going to get into the flu shot.
Yeah, so...
I forgot she was pregnant with her 3rd child.
Yeah.
As well as fucking... I'm sure she was liked by somebody at the Daily Wire, obviously.
Yeah.
But the fact that her comment
well, she was a big draw for them.
Yeah.
They didn't just bring her in as a gesture of goodwill. They brought her in because she had an established fan base.
Fair. Okay. See, because my thought on it is the same that I know at previous jobs me and other coworkers have had, of a certain coworker or two who goes, man, I'm really feeling sick. I don't think I should be here. Yeah, no, go home, please.
Yeah.
You know what? Take the week off.
Yeah.
Please.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, you guys are so nice. Yes, we are absolutely nice. Please go home.
Yeah.
Just waving them out the door, and then, okay, they're fucking gone for the next 2 weeks, y'all.
Right. Well, I mean, good on her for apologizing to her thirsty fan base.
Apparently thirsty fan base. Christ.
Yeah, I guess. So what you heard in there is correct. She did do a true crime series. And yes, I will be covering it if I can get my dirty internet hands on it. We will go through it if it is entirely publicly accessible, which is how we do things here. Because, as I've said before, if I can get her stuff through like a Rumble link or something like that, then it means that other people can too.
Yeah.
And we're fighting her public disinformation. What she does right now on CandaceOwens.com or whatever the fuck it is, Club Candace, what she does over there is behind a $17 a month paywall.
Yeah.
I see no reason to pursue that right now.
No.
Only the thirstiest, most checked out people are paying that rate. So.
Yeah, there's no need to go into that, because the people who are already in that are already in that.
Yeah, they're fucking cooked.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, as for this clip, though, it is funny to me that she talks about taking maternity leave and is often quoted as talking about how women should be stay-at-home mothers while having a full-blown career herself. If she put more than a voice to the docuseries she talked about, if she actually worked on it, that shit can be hard and time-consuming. Excuse me. Now, we know from the last 38 episodes, plus that we've done, that Candace Owens isn't a hard worker that actually seems capable of research. And we know that she has nannies for her kids. At least one of them, a former nanny, is in regular contact with me.
Yeah.
Anyway, Candace being 40 weeks pregnant and doing this series, even this episode, I believe, and maybe one of her former people can back me up on this, I believe she must have been contractually obligated to do this episode. It is a little over 48 minutes long, and most of it is a complete mess. more so than usual. I will let her continue talking about her sisters.
Which, in my opinion, is one of the most ridiculous things that people are subjecting themselves to annually. I have no idea. They admit that it has very low effectiveness. They admit that it's a bit of a guessing game. We'll get into that. So first, before we get into all of talk about the flu, I want to at first go back to talking about my sisters. In an earlier episode, I told you that we sort of conducted this experiment. We didn't intend to conduct it, but we had boys back to back, and each of us just had a different plan about what we wanted to do when our first children were born. So I went the no-vax route. Super explosive in my family. Oh my gosh, this has never been done. I was the first. I was pioneering it, but I felt sure of myself because of the research that I had done, and of course the injury that I had had to the Gardasil vaccine, that something was amiss. Something was not right with Big Pharma, and
Bullshit.
they were like, you are a little crazy. My eldest sister did the exact opposite. She got all the vaccines right on time. Her and her husband had no fear about vaccines. This was in the land before COVID. People weren't really questioning Big Pharma, and my little sister said, well, we're going to do sort of a delayed schedule, but we're still going to get all the vaccines. And I've told you guys that what ended up happening was that my son has had the most health out of all of his cousins. My sister, who did all of the vaccines on time, her son, unfortunately, is the sickest. She would admit that. He constantly, I told you, had ear infections. He was in and out of the pediatrician. He still is in and out of the pediatrician. He's had so many doses of having to go on antibiotics. His gut health just must be absolutely destroyed. I mean, in 1 year, he went on antibiotics more times than I've probably been on antibiotics in my entire life. And you're talking about a child. You're talking about someone who is today 3 years old. And so for her second child, my sister basically said, my eldest sister, I can't ignore the facts here. Like, I can't ignore what I'm seeing. It's amazing. You have two children. They're healthier than my son. This is when my daughter was by then born. We also didn't vax her. She literally was never sick. She's now 1, has never been sick 1 day in her life. We have never even had to give her so much as Motrin. Not even when she cracks a tooth, which is something that every single time my son cracked a tooth, he had a fever. My daughter, nothing. And so she said, I want to do something different this time, you know? And seeing your healthy kids and having now lived through the era of the coronavirus and questioning why we were told so many lies and things shifted has kind of brought me onto the plausibility that maybe, Candace, you might be right. And I want to be clear, my sister is not a consumer of my content. She's super apolitical. When I say she's apolitical, it's the other day she said something to me and I thought she was crazy. I told her I was running down to do Tucker Carlson's show and she said, who is Tucker Carlson? That is how apolitical my sister is. Just to give you an idea, she's an accountant. She doesn't really care about anything to do with politics. And so this was her sudden pursuit in wanting to understand what I was talking about with vaccines was very interesting to me. I sent her a few of these episodes and she began her journey.
Okay, so that was 3 minutes. I'm kind of pausing here to discuss that I was conflicted with information she presents on her family in this episode. For one thing, her sister being checked out on her content, if true, is kind of dangerous, really. If I had a relative that put themselves out in the media like this, drawing attention to my family name and all, I would follow their content, if for no other reason than to distance myself from anything offensive that they might say. As it is, my family members outside of this house do not know that I do this, and I don't use my real name in this. Neither of us do, actually. I'm saying all of this because Candace is going to say her sister's name in this episode, and I debated cutting it. Her older sister here, I have a lot of OSINT on her, and I was conflicted with whether or not her name needs to be in this. Candace says that she is apolitical, and then she says that her sister began her journey with her poorly researched series material. Given what comes next, and the fact that her name could have been redacted at any time from the series, I have chosen to leave it in as it is. I don't know if in the wake of what happened with Charlie Kirk, if this is a good thing, but it is an honest thing. I'm not going to spell out her name or give any of the details that I dug up, but I am leaving the name in here. Time to hear about what happened with her sister's second kid.
She gave birth to a healthy, bubbly little girl, and they refused all vaccination. Today, she is about 4 months years old, and she is unbelievably happy. But, hear this. So, They take her to the pediatrician in the beginning, and they're like, oh, not a problem that you don't want to vax her. That's totally fine, but obviously you recognize that in order for us to keep seeing her, you're going to have to vax her. So that's kind of slight pressure happening, and she's like, okay. But her son still goes to this pediatrician. Her fully vaxxed son, who has never missed a single vaccine, still goes here. So now the time is coming up where they tell her, you got to kind of make a decision here, because we're not going to keep allowing, your baby to come in here unless you're going to commit to getting the vaccines. And my sister said, they were very nice about it, but also letting us know that she can't really come here. They won't see her anymore. And my sister said, that just makes me wonder, if this is really about health and you care about children, why would you say that my child can't come here when she is sick? And I said, Ashley, my sister's name, it's going to be fine. No big deal. Your daughter will be fine. I will, you're going to realize that you really are only taking her to the pediatrician to give her vaccines because she's healthy. And so they trusted that. Well, you're not going to believe this. They made a decision not to vaccinate their second child, first child fully vaccinated, and my sister, out of nowhere, no phone call, has been with this pediatrician for 3 years for her son, and this is the letter she gets in the mail. They basically broke up with my sister and said, now your fully vaxxed son also can't go here because you're refusing to vaccinate your second child. Mind-boggling. She gave me the letter. Obviously, you see she scribbled out some details on here because she didn't know that I could do that electronically. My sister is an accountant. She does not care, doesn't know much about Photoshop. So it says, Dear Blank, please be advised that this office will no longer be able to provide medical care to your children. Our experience suggests that our practice is not the best fit for your family needs. We recommend that you find another clinician without delay to assure continuity of care for your child. If your child requires medical care as a result of an emergency within the next 30 days from the date of this letter, this office and its clinicians will be available to care for your child until the emergency has been stabilized and care of your child has been transitioned to another physician. If your child had any scheduled upcoming appointments, they have been canceled. Upon your written request, we will provide the new clinician with copies of all or any portions of your child's medical records. To that end, release of medical records authorization forms are enclosed. You should complete these forms in full. Please sign and date the authorization forms where indicated and return the originals to this office at your earliest convenience.
Okay, so I looked into whether or not this was legal, based on where the sister was living at the time. Mm-hmm. Indeed, in her state, the pediatrician was legally allowed to do this. And sending a letter in the mail is standard practice where they live and where the pediatrician likely has their practice. I won't be providing links to her home state medical rules or anything that would help a listener dox her information beyond Candace using her first name. I know her name and many public details on her life, but I respect her as a private person and I won't be sharing more than Candace does about her. That said, the practice was well within its rights here. Candace is going to give more of her opinion on this subject, but keep in mind, both of the sisters' kids were going here, but because she refused vaccines for the younger one, the oldest has also been kicked from the practice, which again is the doctor's right and obligation to do in light of how this could affect other patients. But let's allow her to continue misunderstanding family dismissal policies and encouraging her audience to be angry at the medical establishment. All right, and here it is.
Wow. Her fully vaccinated son just got kicked out of his pediatrician after spending 3 years of his life there, being told that these vaccines are going to protect you. That's the reason you get them, because vaccines work. Suddenly they found she has a second child and she's doing something different, and they say, no, he's got to go too unless you agree that we have access to her body and her blood too. And the question that I keep asking is why? If vaccines work, if vaccines protect you, if once you get a vaccine, you are safe from the other world, if the crazy kids are the anti-vax kids, because they're the ones that are going to be sick and dying for not being vaccinated, why on earth would you kick her son out of the practice? And how unceremoniously? How unceremoniously? You developed a relationship with this pediatrician for 3 years. She got no phone call, just a breakup letter in the mail. Goodbye. Sorry. Had a nice time. It's been a great 3 years. Could you imagine if a boy broke up with you this way? After 3 years of dating, you'd be like, what's going on? How could you do this? At least pick up the phone and call me. Have a spine about it. Nope. Because this is not about a real relationship. This is not about somebody caring for you. This is an abusive relationship. You have been used, and your child represents money to us. And now that we know that there's a second child and we aren't earning money, you can't come here anymore. It's not like she was going to force her child into the practice. It's not like there's not other unvaccinated people that her children are being exposed to. Not everybody vaccinates their children. I'm one of them. Her son's been around his cousins. You're not worried about the exposure to disease here. You're just bullying people. You're saying that you could have not even known she had a second child. She's not required to bring her child to you as a pediatrician, but because you knew she had a second child and you knew that she had decided that she was going to do something different, you kicked my sister and her child, who had been faithful to for 3 years, out of the practice. This was...
Okay, so let's unpack this. Candace's assertion that the older child is immunocompromised because he was vaxxed is bullshit, and I'm skipping over it. We're going to operate in logic land here. So, why would anyone think this was about the practice not making money on a kid that isn't vaccinated? On its face, this falls apart. A non-vaccinated child is, of course, likely to be sick more often. And in the case of most of these vaccines, they are likely to be sick with hardcore diseases that require extra care. It would not make financial sense for a practice to promote vaccines if the doctors were actually as unethical as Candace would like for them to be. The other side of this is that medical ethics is a very real thing, and a non-vaxxed kid, especially if they were in the office to see a doctor for some fuck shit that they caught because their parents are morons, that kid poses a risk to actual immunocompromised patients that literally cannot get a vaccination. Again, if a practice has no ethics, this would mean possibly more money from the parents of a kid that got sick from something brought in by a non-vaxxed kid. If this was all about money, it would make sense to not have any ethics at all in the issue. Which is what I kind of assume the doctors at Candace and people like her have hired. I assume that this is their business model. Vaccines are a social good, and a doctor office is not going to make bank by giving out preventative medicines in a cynical sense anyway. Now, why would they dismiss the entire family, including the vaxxed kid? Well, if the parents have refused vaccines for the little one, then my guess is that they refused further vaccines for the older one as well. Even so, if they were performing some sick experiment with their kids and keeping one vax while keeping the other one off of vaccines, they still pose the same risk if the older one is a carrier of something from the younger and they carry it into the practice and infect some other innocent kid. The reasons for this are well known to anyone that paid attention during Maine COVID and those who are still paying attention now. But Candace isn't done. And I didn't mention where she was living at the time of this public episode, but Candace will. I would be fucking furious.
It's a huge wake-up call for her. She was infuriated. She said, how can you not say this is about money? You don't care about the health of my children at all. 30 days, if something bad happens, we'll help you. Other than that, you're on your own, kiddos. Yeah, very important letter that I wanted to basically show you guys because my sister was outraged. I was outraged, and I couldn't wait to bring it onto my show. I was like, Ash, I have to show this on the show because everybody is starting to have this mass awakening. And now she's kind of going through the phase. She's like, well, what am I going to do? Because she does have this older son that is somewhat immunocompromised because he stayed on the schedule. And she's going, how do I deal with this? And I've been talking to her about concierge doctors, which I've brought up on this program, which I think is going to be the new direction that medicine goes into. Doctors realizing that they don't want to be a part of this because they do care about children. Pediatricians realizing I don't want to be a part of this criminal syndicate because I do care about children. And even if a child is not vaccinated, if a child is sick, my job and my pledge, the Hippocratic oath that I take as a doctor requires that I want to make this child better. don't send a breakup note unceremoniously after 3 years. So concierge doctors and clinics, I think, are the way to go. Now she's still having to jump through hoops, again, because she lives in Connecticut, and it is a huge, big pharma state. There's very little freedom that is provided to parents, and they pretend that you have freedom, that you can make a decision, but then they tell you that you actually, no doctor will see you, and you won't be able to go to school unless you do exactly what we said. That is not freedom. That is an illusion of freedom, and we saw a lot of that, again, during the COVID era.
Kids with valid vaccine exceptions are not shut out from school or medical offices. However, most medical offices are businesses, and Candace would be the first person to say that a business can refuse whatever service it wants to, as she has done so on record multiple times over the years, defending businesses that say refuse to make wedding cakes for gay weddings. At the end of the day, to conservatives like her, a medical office should be another business like any other. If she wants a more ethical medical system, then she should push for single-payer medicine. You know, like they have in the UK and shit. But since single-payer medicine usually means allowing actual science, that also doesn't work in her worldview, does it? So her solution is concierge doctors. But as she noted, that doesn't solve all the problems in a state like the one she mentioned, which has rules regarding how children enter and stay in school in regards to vaccines. The way around that, of course, is homeschooling. But her sister is a professional person, and so is her partner. They don't have the time for that. So they have an interesting future ahead of themselves, and I hope that for the sake of the kids, they realized that Candace is full of shit on this topic, if any of this had any merit to begin with in her retelling. And now, let's hear about RFK Jr., circa late 2023.
All right, guys, moving on, and in the same vein, I also wanted to share with you this clip of Robert F. Kennedy Jr. debating a family physician on vaccine safety during a News Nation town hall. Now, Robert F. Kennedy Jr., you will recall, he is running as an independent candidate. He was at first running as a Democrat. Now he's running as an independent candidate for president of the United States. RFK is not particularly somebody that I would vote for based on other policy disputes that I have with him, but I am so happy that he is in the universe and that more people are being exposed to him, because he had so much to do with not just my awakening pertaining to vaccines, but in recognizing that there was such little information. If I wanted to go down this path of not vaccinating my children, where was I going to turn to? And he had, as I mentioned to you before, Children's Health Defense, which is a not-for-profit that he has been involved with, and that became the information that I had access to, like somebody who was willing to talk about it, articles that were being posted. It's very difficult when you go down this path to find information pertaining to vaccines, to find a different perspective, and you really realize the power that Big Pharma has on the narrative, not just in the mainstream media, but even a simple Google. Google it's hardly a place where you can get different opinions anymore. I remember when I was growing up and you used to Google something, there was like 200 pages at the bottom. Like you could just literally 200 pages on any subject. Look now, if you Google any topic, and it's maybe 1 or 2 pages, and all of it's saying the same thing. Google is now a highly censored search engine, and they went through great lengths, especially during COVID, to make sure that they tackled what they called disinformation and misinformation, and they include, of course, people that are just telling their own experiences. So it was a great service that Children's Health Defense was created, that it existed, that it still exists, and that it existed for me when I was looking for more information. And so, again, I'm very happy that he is someone who is so committed to his beliefs, just like me, and that he is willing to go into the public forum and talk about what he believes and to allow people to debate him. He's always been so open to a debate. So him sitting down with this family physician, or rather answering this family physician regarding vaccine safety during a News Nation town hall, is an example of what I just believe is his bravery, which is cracking open this conversation once and for all. So let's just take a listen to how he answered this family physician.
Okay, before she gets into that, I shouldn't have to say this, but finding information, actual information on vaccines and vaccine safety is not hard, as we've demonstrated on this program time after time. Google will still provide multiple pages of results for you, but as even they note, much of what they don't show on a basic search is often repetitive results. However, there is a link at the bottom of any Google search that explains this and offers to show you what they cut out.
To quote it exactly, because I decided to just pick a random subject.
Right.
In order to show you the most relevant results, we have omitted some entries very similar to the 197 already displayed. If you like, you can repeat the search with the omitted results included.
Yep, that is what has been at the bottom of every Google search for the last few years.
I punched in how do one get bitches.
If the top link isn't from like pimpsandhoes.com or something,
It's actually from Reddit.
Of course.
r/role reversal.
Oh, there we go. Okay.
And then the next one is a YouTube link to a pimp.
Oh, yeah. All right. Candace acting like this is new is also false. People first noticed this shift in how results were presented several years ago. Even if we go back to when her son was being born during her pregnancy, truncated searches were not new. This is just more hot garbage from her. What is really telling to me about her workflow and her work style, if that actually exists, is that she never recommends an actual solution. Like, if Google sucks, then try something else. Mm-hmm. Yahoo, DuckDuckGo, Bing, even, I'm sure there are others.
Opera GX,
Yeah. But this is typical of her.
Unpaid plug, by the way, because I know they sponsor shit.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Opera GX loves slapping their dick in everyone's faces.
See, I don't know. I haven't heard an ad for them in a long time. I'm happy for that.
See, I watch a lot of gamers, so.
And they're like, yeah, today's episode of How to Do a Blah 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 is brought to you by Opera GX.
Yeah, usually.
Do you need to know how to not build a bomb in Minecraft? Go to operagx.com and that was blah 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 blah. Yeah. I get it if you have a search engine. You have to make ads. Okay. You're up against some big competition.
Yeah.
But I hate ads so much. Oh god, I skip past so many ads, like when I'm listening to podcasts, that I'm reminded constantly that I never want to do ads on this show.
Yeah.
I had toyed with the idea before. I was like, well, maybe, and that was part of why for a long time I was cutting episodes up into like sections of 5 and then putting the full episode up on like a Saturday, like Monday through Friday would be 5 cuts and then Saturday would be everything cut together, or, kept whole, whatever. And I was doing that for a while, but I realized the more that I was listening to other shows, the more that I hated ads. I didn't want to drive up traffic for us to be able to get ads because, again, the whole revenue stream thing and, having a money trail really worked against my senses, on top of I don't want to run fucking ads.
Yeah.
I hate it. Yeah. I don't want to do it. You know?
And there's a guy who sitting in, he's friends with all these big time streamers, and he's a big time streamer himself, and he goes, yeah, I have an ad blocker that is of a custom make that blocks everything, including Twitch ads. And they're like, and this is the part where you say you turn it off when you're watching our videos, right? And he's like, no, fuck you guys.
Yeah.
Y'all are some of my best friends, but nah, you guys ain't getting a fucking dime out of me.
Right. You're not getting a dime out of my eyeballs, motherfuckers. Yeah. But I mean...
Which is something that Upper GX has is a built-in ad blocker. It's beautiful.
Nice. But this is typical of her. Present a false problem, and then present no way around it, just complain. Mm-hmm. Anyway, I do think Google sucks up against other options these days, and I actually like Perplexity AI. I always check its sourcing, but more often than I would like, when I was evaluating it against Google, Perplexity came out on top most of the time. I occasionally ask Perplexity, Cortana, Gemini, Bing, and Grok the same things when I know what the actual answer is. I'm just having fun with them.
I forgot about Cortana.
Yep, still a thing. Perplexity usually nails it better than the others. I don't use it as a crutch, but it is a nice tool. Anyway, let's give RFK Jr. some fucking airtime. He is the fucking worst person to interview, by the way. Just a complete sack of shit. But here you go. Spoiler alert, Candace is going to break into the clip midway through.
And Mr. Kennedy, one of the biggest controversies surrounding your candidacy is your stance on childhood vaccines. Nearly every scientific and medical organization, including the CDC, the FDA, the AMA, the American Academy of Pediatrics, all say you're wrong on this issue. This leads us to our very first question from our audience. It's Dr. Tariq Butt, who specializes...
I would ask you one thing. On what issue?
On childhood vaccines.
What about them?
And whether they ever cause autism or damage kids. They all say these vaccines have saved millions of
never
lives.
damage kids.
I don't think anybody has said they never have. There might be a child here, but overall, all those organizations say vaccines are safe and have saved millions and millions of lives. Now, let's get to our audience question from Dr. Butts.
Good evening. Eradication of chickenpox and polio from the U.S. and many parts of the world is a direct result of regular vaccines. Measles, mumps, rubella, and many diseases are preventable, and there is little to no evidence of these diseases in vaccinated population. Your vaccine stance is dangerous to the health and well-being of millions. Medical experts are deeply concerned about your message. How can we help you to come to the side of science?
So before we even get into his response, I just want you to really just take a look at the question and the way that it's being framed. It already feels so propagandist. It feels so authoritarian. It's the CDC, these groups, these funded taxpayer dollars that are going to these bureaucracies of people that are getting kickbacks. And, we're going to get into that down the line of talking about how they all don't really have authority, but somehow think that they are the authority, how they're working in lockstep. It is my belief that we live amidst the greatest drug cartel that has ever existed on the face of the planet. If you talk about America, I believe that. I believe that the aspirations of drug dealers in Mexico, some of the biggest drug cartel, they were trying to do what America accomplished. They wanted to take over the government and essentially be able to have this marriage between the government and the drug dealers and spread drugs amongst the population to create addiction. That's what I believe we are existing under in America. And when you see the way that she frames the question, so authoritative, and we all agree, so it must be true. The CDC and the FDA say it, so it must be true. And then you see this guy who just feels to me like a plant. How can we bring you over to the side of science? Instantly a setup, and he's going to maneuver it brilliantly. Let's take a listen.
What was the question? How can you help me come to my senses?
No.
No.
Science.
You are a very smart person.
Okay, so, I think most people don't know what my stance is on vaccines. I've never been anti-vaccine. And I've said that hundreds and hundreds of times, but it doesn't matter. Because that is a way of silencing me. Using that pejorative to describe me is a way of silencing or marginalizing me. My position on vaccines, I think, virtually every American would agree with my stance on vaccines, which is that vaccines should be tested like other medicines. They should be safety tested. And unfortunately, the vaccines are not safety tested. They're not. Of the 72 vaccine doses now essentially mandated, they're recommended, but they're really mandated. For American children, none of them, not one, has ever been subject to a pre-licensing placebo-controlled trial.
Yes, they have.
No.
She is a reporter working for News Nation. How can she just make this statement so authoritatively? He's obviously very well researched on this topic. He knows what he's talking about. It's almost like listening to a robot, where you just have to say, yes, it's safe. It's safe no matter what. Of course it's safe. It's been tested 1,000 times. The COVID vaccine's been tested, and it's secure. It's fine. These are talking points. These people are funded by Big Pharma. When you look into the media and you realize that Pfizer is funding CNN, they'll tell you that the vaccine is safe, and then they cut to a Pfizer commercial. It's just, in my opinion, so disingenuous, but he's going to shut her down, so let's let him keep going.
Okay, before he goes on, of course, almost everything he said is bullshit. As we've talked about on this show, and even as Candace herself has unknowingly noted many times, vaccines are tested thoroughly for safety in various conditions. You can read about the vaccine trials in the inserts, and also inserts are kept up to date with adverse reaction information that has been studied and evaluated. This is exactly why certain vaccines have been pulled, or in the case of the oral polio vaccine, are unavailable in America and other countries. And also in that clip, we heard his claim about minors getting up to 72 vaccines before age 18. In case anyone was wondering where Candace kept getting that number, it is a number that he was known to blast on repeat until recently, when in a televised statement with Trump, RFK Jr., and because there is no actual God, Dr. Oz was also there, because he holds a paid position as the head of the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services. In that televised appearance, Trump claimed that the number of childhood vaccines was now up to over 80.
I forgot Dr. Oz was in our government.
Yeah, a funny story about that, and I'll tell you more in a minute. The number, in case anyone is still curious, is about 30, give or take. Anyway, Kennedy has more bullshit to say. But before that, Dr. Oz got a job in the government when he lost his bid for a Senate seat in Pennsylvania, I believe, where he didn't have a home, he didn't reside. He ran for the Senate and lost.
Don't you need to live in the state that you're running for?
He'd never lived there in his entire life. But he ran for a Senate seat. He lost. And then Trump gave him a position. And unfortunately, he had to be voted in. He was voted in by our fucking Senate. Now, the worst part about Dr. Oz is that just like Trump's first head of housing and urban development, Dr. Ben Carson, who I'm not sure if he died from COVID or not, so I'm not going to say that one for sure. But Ben Carson was a brilliant doctor.
Yeah.
Dr. Oz was a brilliant heart surgeon. Like, he's one of the few people in the world that, if you're dying, he could probably put together a kit from, like, common household shit and save your life.
Okay.
He's an incredible heart surgeon with an incredible record. Ben Carson, same kind of thing. But, just like these tech weirdos, they think that because I'm great at this, I'm great at everything. No. Know your fucking lane and stay in it.
Stay in your goddamn lane, please.
Yes. Yeah. For the good of the rest of us, stay in your lane. Like, how many more lives could he have saved? If he just stayed in practice?
Yeah.
How many more doctors could he have trained to be maybe not as good as him, but close?
Yeah.
I'll take someone close.
Yeah.
If I can't get number 1, I'll take number 9 if they were trained by him.
Yeah.
Like,
nothing's more reassuring than to see on somebody's fucking list.
Yeah.
Oh, who else has this doctor worked on? Well, we can't disclose that, but we can disclose that they were trained by Dr. Oz.
Yeah.
Oh, fuck. All right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Can you split me open now?
Yeah. Yeah. Can you save my life right now as opposed to 3 months from now? Come on. But yeah, so as you may have noticed, RFK has his own version of Gish Gallop. And as much as I would like to cut in to what he's saying, I'm going to let it play all the way through.
Dr. Fauci and many other people for many years said this, that Bobby Kennedy, when he says that, is wrong. So I met with Dr. Fauci in 2016, and I agreed to go on Trump's Vaccine Safety Commission, and I was with Aaron Siri and Lynn Redwood and a number of other people, and we said to him, can you show us one test from any vaccine, pre-licensing safety test? And he said, I'll send it to you. I can't find one now. He never did, so we sued him. We sued Aaron Siri and I sued HHS. And after a year of litigation and stonewalling, they said that they could not provide a single safety study for any vaccine that is on the childhood schedule, pre-licensing safety study. So anybody who wants to read that can go to the Children's Health Defense website, and you can read HHS's admission that not a single one has ever been safety tested pre-licensing. Now, what I've said is other medicines are required to do that, and we should have to do that for vaccines. If I'm wrong, show me the test, show me the study. You won't be able to, because there are none.
So,
I really do despise this dude, because of course he is lying at worst, and incorrectly informed at best. However, since he gets called out on a regular basis, either he or his brainworm are most likely lying. Anyway, Kennedy and Fauci were never on a commission. What?
With his voice,
Yeah.
I just realized who he reminds me of.
Oh, yeah?
Dr. Osborn from the first Spider-Man movie.
Oh, Norman Osborn?
Yeah.
Yeah, a little bit, yeah.
And then you mentioned the brainworm, and I just went, I wonder if it talks to him in a Green Goblin voice, just, yes, tell them.
Or if it's doing a ratatouille in his brain.
Oh, God.
Just like pulling the right, neurons to say words.
If I can get you to do this enough, the rest of the aliens can invade.
Right.
God.
Anyway, Kennedy and Fauci were never on a commission or a panel in 2016. And this would have been tough for Trump to do as a president in 2016 because he wasn't the president yet.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because Barack Obama was until early 2017. Anyway, in 2017, Kennedy claimed that he was asked by Trump to chair a commission on vaccine safety, but that actually never happened, and no record exists in any way to support that claim. His non-for-profit company, Children's Health Defense, did sue Health and Human Services, which he is now the head of. They actually did sue HHS over these claims. The claims were that HHS and other agencies were required to run scheduled reports on vaccine safety, and they had not been doing that. And the lawsuits were designed to force them to either comply or prove that there was a lack of compliance. Most of the cases were dismissed, and in some of them that wound up at the Supreme Court, the court declined to hear the cases. The court gave a big, nah, bruh.
God damn.
Which is the ultimate nope.
Yeah.
If it gets turned away by the Supreme Court, you literally have no more chances.
Yeah, no.
A few of the lawsuits did result in increased transparency in the agencies, but none seem to have been taken seriously. Included in the link stack, right at the top, the first two links go to a factcheck.org article set on RFK Jr. and the claims made by his company. The third link in the stack goes to the Wikipedia page for Children's Health Defense, and there is a tab there for lawsuits, if anyone wants to see how many there are and why I am not going through any of them. And now, Candace will defend his bullshit. And keep in mind, in her telling of it, she is going to get the doctor wrong. Fauci isn't who he just said he asked for information. He claimed that Fauci was supposed to be on a board that never happened. Certainly not in 2016. Anyway, listen to the spin doctor work her bullshit.
Well, there you have it. You have a woman that said, yes, they have. Yes, they have. And she's a reporter, and therefore it must be true. And then he just hits her with a fact and says, actually, I sued HHS for this. Dr. Fauci and I have worked together. He said, oh, it exists. And he never got back to us about showing us this pre-licensure testing to assure that these vaccines are safe. And then they had to admit after a lawsuit was filed that no such tests exist. And yet they are able to tell you that these tests do exist, able to brainwash you into believing that it's perfectly fine to give up your perfectly healthy newborn baby and have them roll up their figurative sleeves and inject this stuff that has so many warnings on these labels because it's perfectly safe and it's fine. Everybody else is doing it, so why should you question it?
And there she is, the Gish Gallop girl herself. That was less than 1 minute. Look,
Really?
Yeah. Look,
Fuck.
I am all for the continued monitoring of vaccines and making sure the protocols are being followed. But the difference is that RFK Jr. and Candace Owens are working at a cross purpose by claiming that in spite of all available evidence, they will claim that vaccines are unsafe. Even if there was no merit whatsoever to his lawsuits, and based on the outcomes, it doesn't seem that there was, you could put that man in the center of the evidence and he would still deny it. And we know this is the case based on how he has been running Health and Human Services and how anytime he is called to the floor to defend shit that he just said on the Senate or House floor, he fucks it up.
Mm-hmm.
He is a colossal fuck up. But in case anyone forgot, this is the Candace Owens show and she isn't done.
And I love that he talks about the pejoratives. I've spoken about how that becomes such a game, being called anti-vax. The reason why I had to embrace it to do this is because I realized that there's always power. We've given too much power to pejoratives. I now take pride in people that call me anti-vax. He says, oh, I'm not anti-vax. I just want there to be more safety. I tell people, yeah, I don't vax my kids. If you want to call me anti-vax, whatever. Because it takes the power out of that pejorative. And as a final news item of something that I just wanted to show to you, and obviously this is because I'm just getting close to birth, I shared with you my prior birthing experience with my daughter Louise. I am so loath to go to the hospital again. Everyone messages me and says, what's your birthing plan? I want to just have the baby at home, obviously. I am super crunchy. That's what I would like to do. My husband does not want this scenario. He's like, we've had 2 perfect births. Why not just go to the hospital? Let's go to a different hospital this time so we don't get harassed about making our own decisions. So we're somewhere in between. The reason why I keep working is because I'm kind of hoping for an emergency where I just give birth and I'm like, oh, well, gave birth through Daily Wire. I guess I don't have to go to the hospital and I get to just go home. So obviously one of the reasons that I don't want to go back to the hospital is because of that experience and feeling like it was such an anti-freedom environment and feeling like you're so bullied, even though obviously I'm not a person that's afraid to stand up to these bullies, and you've kind of got the point on that by how we just took our baby and left and allowed them to threaten us, and CPS never ended up showing up. It's all the thuggery. Let's keep it.
Okay, Candace highlighting her own lie right there. Candace had claimed on Twitter and on the gram way back that after the birth of her second kid that the hospital tried to strong-arm her, Kat has entered the room, and her husband into vaccinations and the like, and when they just left with the kid, the hospital threatened to call Child Protective Services on them. I can't say whether or not this actually happened, but since it isn't against the law in Tennessee to do this, and that same year, 2023, a law was passed that gave parents total control over their kids' vaccinations, I doubt this story is true at all. What I would be more willing to believe is that someone suggested it strongly and they left without incident.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Candace is going to make an argument for socialized medicine without realizing it.
Doing for 48 hours because that's exactly how long insurance covers. And then as soon as 48 hours is up, we're like, you're good. We've monitored the baby and mom enough and you could goodbye because we can't make any money off of you. And that drives me crazy. Even within the physician's office, as you're at an OBGYN, you'll see this, care up until 40 weeks. until we can bill your insurance, then it's like, oh, there's 1,000 reasons you should get induced. Let me tell you why we should just get an induction date and pass you over to the hospital so they can make their max insurance money. It's all just such a farce, and it's just sad because we're talking about the lives of children, we're talking about newborns, and it should be about health, but it isn't, unfortunately. It is about dollars.
Candace Care, y'all. And there it is. Oh, he's giving a cat a super stretchy back.
Ugh.
I doubt that Candace would ever admit it, of course. As for the 48 hours thing, it isn't that it is all that insurance will cover. It is a standard that health insurance is required legally to cover in the event of labor leading to birth. They had to institute this law in the 90s because of how many women were being turned out of the hospital immediately after labor because their insurance wouldn't cover it.
Jesus.
The law is called the Newborns and Mothers Healthcare Control Act of 1996. And it requires insurance companies to cover a minimum of 48 hours hospitalization after vaginal delivery and 96 hours after for C-section. It does allow for early discharge if everything is good as well. If anyone wants to read through it themselves, the full link from congress.gov is in the link stack. But from the overview of the act itself, Senate Bill 969 requires health plans and insurance carriers to provide coverage for postpartum hospital stays of at least 48 hours for uncomplicated vaginal deliveries and 96 hours for cesarean sections. Coverage can be provided for shorter hospital stays at the discretion of the attending provider in consultation with the mother. In the case of an early discharge, health plans must offer follow-up care. This structure is based on current medical practice guidelines devised jointly by the American College of Obstetricians and Gynecologists, ACOG, and the American Academy of Pediatrics, AAP, which recommend that when no complications are present, the postpartum hospital stay ranges from 48 hours for vaginal delivery to 96 hours for cesarean birth, excluding the day of delivery. The legislation was introduced in response to a growing trend among insurers and health plans to limit coverage to postpartum care. With health costs rising rapidly, many plans now cover stays of only 24 hours, including the day of delivery. In some cases, insurers limit postpartum coverage to as little as 12 hours or even 8 hours. While efforts to limit postpartum coverage have received national attention only recently, unwarranted early discharge has been a source of concern for women and their doctors for some time. Clinical data has shown that, in many cases, early discharge increases the health risk for mothers and newborns, including health risks from preventable medical conditions. For example, infants released from the hospital in 24 hours or less have experienced an increase in conditions such as severe jaundice, which, left untreated, can result in brain damage or death. In addition, physicians have been under intense pressure from payers to limit stays to 24 hours or less, even when their medical judgment suggests the need for a longer stay. In the past year, 26 states followed New Jersey and Maryland in enacting legislation or adopted regulations to address postpartum coverage for mothers and their newborns. Despite these state efforts, the committee believes that federal legislation is necessary to provide protection for adequate coverage for postpartum care. There are many women who are not affected by state legislation because they receive health benefits through employer-sponsored self-insured health plans shielded from state insurance laws by the preemption provisions of the Employee Retirement Income Security Act, or ERISA. In the state of Kansas, for example, only 40% of companies providing insurance offer insured plans that are subject to state regulation. In addition, as implementation of the New Jersey law has demonstrated, women who live in one state and work in another, or whose employers are based outside of a state that has passed a maternity state law may not be protected by state legislation. So, as per the usual, insurance companies are only doing the bare minimum at best. I know several mothers that were discharged in spite of this law being a thing, and in spite of the kids having some obvious issues at birth along with the mothers. I recommend anyone interested, give it a read. The first few sections are in plain language and could help someone assert their rights if needed.
Mm-hmm.
That's what, like, everything but the last paragraph that I read there was from the overview of the bill itself.
Yeah.
And what they point out there is, like, if you work in, like, New Jersey, but you live in New York, well, that introduces a patchwork effect where your insurance might get away with not covering you
for having given birth in a state you don't live in,
or the state you're not working in.
Yeah.
Let's say you're covered in New Jersey. Great. Well, are you going to get care in New Jersey? Like, are you going to tell, and if your doctor works in New York, now you got to go give birth to a team that you don't know. I said, it creates a stupid ass patchwork effect. Well, that's what the federal law is designed to fulfill.
Yeah.
Is designed to fill that hole and go, no, look, regardless,
you have to help.
Yeah. Or if a pregnant woman has to travel outside of her state, let's say there's a family thing going on and she gives birth, a couple weeks early, and she's way out of state, well, she's got to be taken care of.
Yeah.
And yeah, like what Candace is bitching about there is just insurance companies doing the bare minimum.
Mm-hmm.
Well, guess what? If we had a national health system, it would just work. Do you know? Like how all these other countries that you envy, how they just work? It could work here.
Yeah.
This isn't the way it always was. It's not the way it has to be. God damn. Anyway.
Hopefully not the way it always will be.
Yeah, I would love to, I would love to see shit get better. But I think we're going to have to go through some hard times first. Seems to be that's what's coming up. All right, here's the next clip.
The things in the state of Tennessee, which Tennessee is a remarkably free state, so I know that if it's happening in Tennessee hospitals, you can almost guarantee that it's happening everywhere else, is that you are required to submit your child's DNA as soon as they are born.
No. That was a short clip, but it is a lie that I felt compelled to take on its own, given how her crazy fucking fans could take such a statement. The hospitals are not taking a child's DNA. In Tennessee, as in other states, a metabolic/genetic blood spot test is run to screen for a panel of possible problems, which, if caught early, could prevent sudden infant death syndrome, or SIDS, which we have discussed in prior episodes. The dried blood spot is kept for up to 12 months. But in Tennessee, parents can opt out of the testing if they cite religious reasons and sign a form. The DNA is not held in a database, and the system purges old spots on a routine basis. This is how casually she throws out bullshit. But next, she's going to try to dial it back while still pushing her audience on a false set of fears.
I want to say something. That is not necessarily a bad thing, right? I have had circumstances, I have had friends who have gotten that prick test, and really one friend in particular, and they were able to determine that her son had PKU, and that is a very serious diagnosis. It requires you to significantly alter what your child is eating immediately. It means that even what you are trying to feed your child, the breast milk, could become a harm. It has a lot to do with protein levels. So it's not a bad thing that they want to take your child's blood and to make sure that they are not carriers of certain diseases. I don't have an issue with that. But the mind wonders what they do thereafter as they collect this. Why would they mandate this? We already know that the federal government is not actually interested in the health of your children. So it becomes an argument that this is for health. It is for health. But what else happens? Take a look at this Daily Mail article. I could not believe it when I saw it. Actually, I could, because this is the way my brain works and how I'm constantly processing things all the time. But it's still quite stunning to read it and recognize that, your worst fears about this are confirmed. So the headline reads, "Your baby's DNA is being stored for decades in government labs and can be used in police investigations without your permission. And New Jersey parents are now suing for rights to their infants' blood. It's unbelievable. Our article goes on to read nearly every U.S.-born baby has blood drawn to check their risk of about 60 rare diseases within hours of coming into the world. What many parents may not know is that these DNA samples can be stored in government labs indefinitely, allowing law enforcement access to blood for investigations into a child's relative. A 1996 cold case was solved last year after New Jersey police collected a baby's DNA without a warrant to investigate the child's father, grabbing the attention of some parents who are now suing state health officials over its storage practices. Wow. Unbelievable to read the story, and this has kind of been my biggest fear, is that it's just giving up freedom. Now, I want to be clear. I am glad they were able to solve a 1996 cold case murder, but I am not glad that the blood of the innocent was stored against a parent's will to be able to do it, right? That this father was caught, in a crime because the baby was born. The parents were told this is just, to make sure that your baby's not a carrier of 60 different diseases, when in reality, the government is collecting data on all of us. That's a very scary thought. And you get the sense when they start making these laws that you can't opt out. And this is something that you're not allowed to opt out of, doing the DNA the DNA heel prick test, that it's not about health and safety. It's because they have more nefarious things going on top of government. And they go, well, if we get every single person's DNA when they're born, then we will have access to their blood for the rest of their lives, and we can run testing. And it's unrelated. I mean, I even wonder from a defense perspective how that works. Right? It's talk about taking something without a warrant. If you can't even walk into someone's house without a warrant and search it, what rights does the state have to saying, well, we caught you, but we didn't have a warrant to the blood that we used to caught you? It's a huge legal conundrum, which I think is going to be really fascinating to follow down the line. Again, I am not saying that I am not happy that a criminal was caught and that a cold case was solved, but I am unhappy that the innocent blood of an infant was used to do it against the parent's will. And this is how my brain works all the time. I don't know if I am just conspiratorial naturally, but I always understand how a government is thinking, and it's never about wanting to help. It's never about wanting health. It is about wanting omnipotent power.
Omnipotent power!
God. First off, she said the exact same thing at least 7 different ways.
Yeah.
Secondly, she made a comment about how children's blood is being stored by the government to house information against us, and it threw me back to a Johnny Silverhand quote, and I didn't like that at all. Because Johnny Silverhand is a very anti-fash, anti-corp individual.
Yeah.
And my brain doesn't want to see Keanu Reeves with a midwife haircut. Just... God. Also, isn't this supposed to be about the flu?
Oh, we're getting there. Hold on.
Getting to the flu.
Hold on.
I know she's got more time to cook here, but like...
Oh, wait for it.
This is supposed to be about the flu.
I wonder how long it would take you to bring that up.
Every time I remember to bring it up, she doesn't shut up and I forget it.
That's her superpower, man. So I looked up the article. I looked up the article that you mentioned, and it really does have the long-ass title. I thought for sure she was like, maybe reading like the title and then like the subtitle. No, it has a long title. However, and I am linking the article in the link stack, of course. What Candace said in the clip about a murderer being found out, the kid's father wasn't a murderer.
Well, that's awkward.
Yeah. Some would argue that he was worse.
Oh.
If you don't want to read the article, I'll go ahead and tell you all. He raped 2 female children.
Okay, yeah, no. Child's blood is valid to be used.
Yeah.
I'd say.
New Jersey used a subpoena to obtain his child's DNA for testing. And at the time of the article, the state had done that no less than 5 times on record. As usual, state laws vary wildly on what they do with kids' blood spot tests, as far as how long they keep them and what they can be used for down the line. Due to lawsuits like the one mentioned, some groups have managed to get certain states to practice destroying the blood spot tests after mandated amounts of time. But until there is a federal guideline for it, the standard can be anywhere from 1 year to never destroyed. Cases like this one, where the state finds a rapist using DNA, are hard to argue against, but I do get the larger picture. So, this is an area where I think anyone could tacitly agree with the point being made. But the idea itself is still a valid one, at least I think in terms of holding on to DNA for maybe 5 years, but not indefinitely.
No.
Candace will now go on to prove her basic ignorance on something that I did not know about, but now upon looking it up can see that once again, my theory that she was a lazy student is borne out.
For its people, in my personal viewpoint. And I think the same thing about my husband and I do the storing of the cord blood. And it's a great, amazing breakthrough in science that they can correct genetic issues if you store the cord blood. It's quite expensive, but I think very much worth it. They've had children that have had cerebral palsy that are now able to walk because their parents stored the cord blood. You register that. But then I started asking my husband, like, okay, if our kids are perfectly healthy, what are they doing with that cord blood down the line? What does the fine print read? Are they able to then take that cord blood and conduct weird, freaky Frankenstein experiences? So I then forced my husband to go into our wills and to make sure that there was a chain of custody. Because what I imagine happens is people just perish and die, and then there's just some small print clause that says, and now we own your baby's cord blood and we can test and we can experiment it on it all that we want. And I refuse to give the state any sort of power. It completely freaks me out to even think about the things that they probably do and right under our noses that we don't know when we think that we are being helped and that we're having just scientific breakthroughs.
Okay, so the first time I heard all of that, I was like, what the fuck is cord blood storage? So I looked it up. From dukehealth.org in the link stack. What is umbilical cord blood? Umbilical cord blood is a baby's blood left in the placenta, also called the afterbirth, after the baby is born and the umbilical cord is cut. Historically, umbilical cord blood was discarded with the placenta as medical waste. Over the past few decades, cord blood has been shown to contain stem cells and early precursor cells that can be used for life-saving stem cell transplantation for children and adults in need of a stem cell transplant. Cord blood is more tolerant of a new host and can be used without full matching, providing increased access to transplantation for patients who cannot find a matched donor. How is umbilical cord blood used in medicine? Well, hematopoietic stem cell transplantation can be an effective therapy for children and adults with certain cancers, immune deficiencies, bone marrow failure syndromes, and some genetic diseases, including inborn errors of metabolism and hemoglobinopathies. Traditionally, stem cells for transplantation were obtained from bone marrow or blood. More recently, cord blood has become an alternative source of stem cells for transplantation. A major limitation to stem cell transplantation therapy is the ability to find a suitable donor. Only 20 to 25% of patients in need of a transplant have a relative who is a match and can serve as their donor. Of those without a related donor, only 10 to 50% of patients, depending on their race and ethnicity, will find a matched, unrelated bone marrow donor through the National Marrow Donor Program and other donor registries. Cord blood transplantation does not require as strict matching as bone marrow. So many people who cannot find a matched bone marrow donor can find a suitable cord blood donor. It is estimated that more than 4,000 cord blood transplants are being performed each year around the world. Cord blood and cells derived from birthing tissues are also being studied as a source of stem cells for other purposes, including regenerative therapies for tissues damaged by injury or disease. Duke researchers are currently studying whether an infusion of cord blood can help a child with cerebral palsy, children born with hydrocephalus, and babies with birth asphyxia. We are also studying whether a cell manufactured from cord blood can help repair the lining of nerve cells in the brains of children with leukodystrophies and adults with primary progressive multiple sclerosis. However, these applications remain unproven and are currently the subject of ongoing research. How is umbilical cord blood collected and stored? Well, umbilical cord blood can be collected without risk to the mother or infant donor. Cord blood can be collected from the placenta either during the third stage of labor or within 10 to 15 minutes after delivery of the placenta by sterilely puncturing one of the umbilical veins with a needle and allowing the cord blood to drain into a sterile bag containing an anticoagulant to prevent clotting. After collection from the placenta, some of the red blood cells are usually removed and the volume of the cord blood collection is reduced. For long-term storage, cells undergo specialized freezing procedures and are stored in special freezers under liquid nitrogen. Maximal storage time or expiration date is unknown, but cells are likely to remain usable for decades. Cord blood units from public banks have been successfully transplanted after 18 years in storage. So, what are the options for cord blood storage? Well, there are two main types of cord blood banks, public and private. In general, public banks are nonprofit entities supported by federal or private funding. After the mother consents, public banks collect cord blood from healthy full-term pregnancies at no cost to the donor's family. In given consent, the infant's mother acknowledges that the donation is voluntary and gives up all rights to the cord blood for the public good. The mother also agrees to allow her medical records and the baby's newborn records to be reviewed, gives a detailed family medical history, and allows a sample of her own blood to be taken for infectious disease testing. Units passing screening tests designed to eliminate risks of transmitting genetic or infectious diseases are typed, placed in the search registry, and are available to any suitable patient in need of transplantation. Units that do not meet criteria for public banking may be discarded or used for research purposes. Private cord blood banks are generally for-profit companies that store directed donations intended for future use by the child or a family member. Using a kit provided by the bank, the cord blood is collected by the physician, midwife, or nurse delivering the baby and shipped back to the company's banking facility. The parents of the infant are charged an initial fee for collection and processing of the cord blood and then an annual fee for storage. Varying degrees of testing is performed on the units and minimal standards are used to determine whether a unit is eligible for processing and banking. The majority of private collections are undertaken as an investment in the unknown potential for cord blood to be used to treat serious illnesses in the future. Most obstetricians and pediatricians feel that routine cord blood storage in healthy babies is unnecessary. In this regard, it is important to note that a child's own cord blood would not be used for transplantation of a child with leukemia or other cancers, in part due to concern for contamination with cancerous cells, and it would not be used to treat a genetic condition because the cord blood would contain the same genetic problem. Currently, directed donation of umbilical cord blood for another family member is recommended when a first-degree relative has a high-risk pediatric cancer that can be treated with transplantation therapy, a hemoglobinopathy, or other transfusion-dependent blood disorder, a congenital immune deficiency, or an inborn error of metabolism. So how can I donate my child's umbilical cord blood? Well, it is always a good idea to discuss options for cord blood banking with your obstetric provider or pediatrician. To privately store your baby's cord blood for possible future use by the child or a family member, you may contact one of the many private cord blood banks to arrange collection, shipment, and payment. Additional information about cord blood banking, including a list of private banks, can be found through the Parent's Guide to Cord Blood Foundation. To donate your baby's cord blood for public use, first check whether the hospital at which you plan to deliver works with a cord blood bank to collect cord blood for public donation. In North Carolina, public collections are available at Duke, UNC, Womack Army Medical Center, and Rex hospitals. If your hospital does not participate in public cord blood banking, there are a few public cord blood banks, including the Carolinas Cord Blood Bank at Duke, that offer a free kit program so that public donations may be collected at other hospitals. Interested parents should contact the bank at least 6 weeks before the baby's due date to learn more about the program. Currently, public donations are limited to mothers who have a healthy pregnancy, are 18 years or older, and are pregnant with a single baby. More information about public cord blood donation is available through the National Marrow Donor Program. So there you go. I found that page in almost no time, and several others like it that discuss this program in normal speech. My theory that Candace was a bad student who surrounds herself with people on her level still holds water, I think. Yep.
Also, it's a little rich. Just a little rich. And I know we said we'd hopefully never have to talk about this again.
Right.
But child peen fucking circumcision. Sorry,
Right.
didn't mean to make you choke on your water there.
Yeah.
But the circumcised fucking onion ring that's left over, I don't know what it's called. The fuck. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. The fact that is considered so inhumane and so disgusting and so terrible, but cord blood.
Yeah. It's a little
hypocritical.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not saying that cord blood is, worse or bad.
I mean, it honestly sounds like a really cool program.
Yeah.
For the people, especially for the people that it can help.
Yeah. It's a little rich that people would be kosher with that, but then go, no, dispose of the circumcision skin. Well, but it can also be used for stem cell research in conjunction with that, and maybe speed shit along.
Yeah. Oh, well, see, she was talking, though, about how her and her husband have a private one, and I love how fucking cheap these people are.
Yeah.
Because she's like, and it costs money, so it can be kind of an expensive option. No, I looked into the cost.
Yeah.
Just offhanded, I didn't record it in the thing here, but I looked into the cost. It's something like a couple grand to get signed up with one of these companies.
That's not bad.
Yeah, that's not bad. It's also not bad that the typical yearly fee, depending on the company, is anywhere from $100 to $500 a year.
Yeah, that's really not bad.
For something that could save your child's life or, a close relative in your house. Mm-hmm. Okay. I'll pay that. I wish I knew that was a fucking option.
Yeah.
Something like 20 years ago. I don't think it was.
No.
I'm going to tell myself it wasn't and never look it up because I don't want to know.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Now, the other thing as well is in the previous segment you'd mentioned that they're trying to instill the practice of destroying held blood.
Yeah, well, the blood spots, yeah.
Yeah, but when you said practice, all that came to mind was a bunch of medical professionals standing around a little dropper of blood just going, okay, now you use the flamethrower gently, Timmy, gently. We don't need what happened at the orphanage, just gently destroy the blood.
You want to hold it in the clips and put it over the Bunsen burner, just very quickly, just a simple, see, just like that, yeah.
That's what came to mind when you said practice.
Now,
I have a dumb mind sometimes.
I have to do this. Which one of us is dumber? I willingly listen to this bitch and then go research what she says to present it to everyone as proof that I am crazy. So, I also would like everyone to know at this point, by the way, this has been about 30 minutes of a 50-minute or so episode.
And she still has not mentioned the fucking flu vaccine.
We're supposed to be discussing the flu shot. Yes, I wrote that all down. Candace is about to do some interesting math, by the way.
All right, guys, now let's obviously talk about the flu shot. It's actually a very easy shot to talk about because I think we now all know it's not something that the CDC even tries to hide or the FDA or any of the authorities try to hide, that there is very low effectiveness when it comes to the flu shot, and yet they encourage you to get a flu shot every year. You can't go into Walgreens, you can't go into CVS, you can't go anywhere. They're like, man, you want to get your flu shot? You want to get your flu shot? Yeah, for me, it's a no. Now, I'm going to tell you what I believe about the flu shot, and I'm going to tell you this is fully a conspiracy theory. If you ask any government agency, this is misinformation. What I'm about to tell you is disinformation, it's misinformation, it's all of the things, okay? I do not get the flu shot because I consider myself a part of the group of people who have realized that the only time I ever get the flu is when I get the flu shot. That's it. So I stopped getting the flu shot 15 years ago when I started realizing, my goodness, the only time I ever get the flu is when I get the flu shot. Now, like I said, totally a conspiracy theory. You tell this to a doctor and they say, oh, no, these are deactivated flu virus cells. There's no way that you are getting the flu from the deactivated virus that we are inserting in your arm. Funny story, back in 2019, I went to Uganda.
Okay, so the flu shot math ain't mathing.
Mm-hmm.
This was recorded in 2023. December 2023.
Okay.
Now, I am pretty sure that math worked the same then as it has before and since. But Candace is going to go on and say a bunch of shit she said in the last episode of the flu about how she got the flu after getting the flu shot. But what she said in here was that she had not gotten a flu shot in 15 years. And then she goes on to tell us about an event in 2019. Now, dialing back 15 years from 2023 is the year 2008.
Yeah.
Now, maybe she meant one thing and she said another, but I think this is just another build-up to larger lies. Like, she can't help but exaggerate the most basic details. Anyway, I'm going to let her continue. This episode has about 19 more minutes in it.
And, I was a little unsure about going to Africa. There are some shots that you are required to get to go into Africa. Different illnesses, you're dealing with the wild in a certain way. And we were going right into the wild in Uganda. And I had this Romanian doctor in Philadelphia. And I went in to see him to get the required shots that I had to get, the bare minimum. And he was adamant. He said, if you're going to Uganda, you should get the flu shot this year. And I said, Doc, listen to me. I have not had the flu in 15 years. If I get this flu shot, I will guarantee you I will get the flu. Oh, Candace, I'll have to big Romanian accent. So no, it's not true. It's deactivated. Doc, I know you're looking at me like I'm crazy. I am telling you, this is how it works. I get this flu shot, and I will get the flu. I have not had the flu in 15 years. And he kind of got into my head a little bit. He starts talking about, this is Uganda, this is different, I promise you, this is not true. This exists in your head. Ladies and gentlemen, I rolled up my sleeve and I allowed this man to give me the flu shot. That was my first mistake, okay? Went to Uganda, was fine, came back from Uganda, and I kid you not when I tell you that I got the flu and I almost died that year. This is not me, I'm not being dramatic. I am dramatic sometimes. No. I literally almost died. This is the year that I got engaged.
At least she's honest.
Well, actually, no.
No?
The rabbit hole I had to go down. Okay. Candace got engaged on December 29th, 2018.
Mm-hmm.
About 17 days after her and her husband first met.
Okay.
Her trip to Uganda was in October of 2018 with Ye and Kim. Following that, she made her erroneous and well-publicized statement about Adolf Hitler on December 7th, 2018, at a Turning Point UK appearance. She faced a lot of criticism and backlash for it at the time. I did a lot of deep digging, and I could find no evidence of her being so bedridden in 2019 that she couldn't do anything but lay in bed.
Yeah.
She was active on Twitter and in public work throughout the year. I did as I always do. I tried to prove what she was saying, and I could not find anything that would rack in with what she is talking about here. She may have had the flu at some point, but it seems to have been several months after her flu shot. This is the kind of work that I feel I have to do on this show. But having established this, and until there is other evidence to say otherwise, I am calling bullshit on what she is about to say with 17 minutes left to go in this episode.
Only 17?
17 minutes left to go.
Christ, and she's just gotten to the flu shot. And her adverseness to it.
Keep in mind, she really hasn't. This is all backstory. Here's the next clip.
I was so sick that I could not physically even go to the doctor. I could not turn the lights on. I vomited upwards onto a wall. I was vomiting. I could not see straight. Things were blurry. I remember just everything hurt. My eyes hurt. Everything was just, I had never felt that sort of pain in my life. I called this Romanian doctor and I was like, I had my assistant call. I couldn't even make the phone call, and she explained to him, because my assistant happened to be Romanian at the time, that she's basically dying. Like I did not allow my assistant to leave my apartment because I was not even well enough to make phone calls. Okay, so you imagine I can't even make phone calls. I've just recently been engaged. My assistant actually called my husband, who was living at the UK. My husband now, fiance at the time, who was living in the UK, and she said, like, I don't. Like, you should get on a plane and come here overnight because she's so sick. I don't know what's going on. My husband jumps on a plane, comes overnight from the UK, take care of me. And when I got better, I just said, I will never in my entire life ever allow someone to give me a flu shot ever again. And went to see that doctor again. And I said, I looked you in the face and I told you that if you gave me this flu shot, I was going to die. I mean, Z-Pack, everything that he gave me, I've never been closer to dying than when I got the flu back in 2019. And it's so funny because it predates COVID. And there were so many people who were writing about how they had gotten the nastiest version of the flu that they had ever gotten back in 2019. I was among them.
Okay, as we have already covered, she likely did not actually go through this. The only blind spot for her public-facing work was in January of that year, 2019. But she was active on Twitter and active as the communications director for TPUSA. Just because she didn't film anything with her face, she was still very active in January.
Yeah.
And then she started doing more public-facing work in mid-February, and then in March she got hired by PragerU to do a series of videos for the Candace Owens show. I was going to give her January in my initial research on this. I was going to give her January as maybe she was very sick in January,
Yeah.
I was like, okay. So you get your flu shot before you go to Uganda in October of 2018.
Mm-hmm.
Then we fast forward and you got the flu in January. Okay. A little uncommon, but not that uncommon.
Yeah.
Maybe she got the flu in January. And I kept rolling with that. And then I was like, okay, let me go see if I can pull up any archived shit.
Yeah.
Yeah, no. She was all over Twitter in January. She was not so blind that she couldn't look at her phone or make a phone call or text.
She was
active on Twitter, and she was active as the communications director for TPUSA.
So, all the things to lie about.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Something easily searched. I mean, a lot of this is easily searched, but like that.
Yeah. Well, it's because, she has every right to think that no one's going to actually do the shit that I put myself through.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. For free. Yeah. So, as I said here in the script, moving on from that, 2019 was not, according to data on the year, particularly worse or better for the flu than any given year early on, when she would likely have had it on this timeline. It got worse. The flu got worse later in the year, well past the period she could have had it in. Just more fucking absurd bullshit. 15 minutes left.
So, I am a flu shot conspiracy theorist. Happy to admit that. This is disinformation. This is misinformation. But I am fully on the side of people that have had this same experience about the flu shot. Park that aside. Let's say you're a believer that doesn't give you, that everything is deactivated and that you should roll up your sleeve and that you should get the flu shot. Let's just jump in to the madness of them guessing what strain it's going to be, creating the vaccine based on their guess, because we have actually no idea whether or not the flu vaccine that we created and are demanding that you get is going to be able to fight this strain. So this is a article that is on time.com. And it's supposed to be something that is to make you excited and happy. Good news! The headline reads, we're bringing you the good news. Flu shots should work well this year. Oh, such great news, because they don't usually work well. And it reads, different strains of influenza circulate from year to year, which means making the annual flu shot, it's always a bit of a gamble. Twice a year, the World Health Organization consults experts from around the world to help inform its recommendation about which strains should be targeted by the shots used in the northern and southern hemisphere. Experts' predictions aren't always perfect, which is why the flu shot efficacy varies depending on the season. So this is a known thing that they are just guessing. They're trying to bring you the good news. We think it might work this year. I don't know. We think that it could potentially work. Anyways, roll up your sleeve, get the flu shot, take a chance, and don't worry because everything's deactivated. Anybody telling you otherwise is a conspiracy theorist.
Almost there. So I found the Time article she is talking about here, and for the purpose of clarity, and because it isn't that long, I'll read from it right now, but I am also including it in the link stack. It goes on to say, as she started with, different strains of influenza circulate from year to year, which means making the annual flu shot is always a bit of a gamble. Twice a year, the World Health Organization consults experts from around the world to help inform its recommendations about which strains should be targeted by the shots used in the northern and southern hemispheres. Experts' predictions aren't always perfect, which is why the flu shot efficacy varies depending on the season. Now here's the rest that she didn't fucking read. Preliminary data published by the U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention suggests this year's gamble may pay off. Flu shots used during the beginning of the southern hemisphere's flu season, spring and summer in the northern hemisphere, did a good job of keeping people out of the hospital, which suggests the same may be true during the U.S.'s looming fall and winter flu season. Flu vaccines prevented about half of all possible influenza-related hospitalizations among young children, older adults, and people with pre-existing conditions. 3 groups at increased risk of severe disease during the first months of the flu season in 5 South American countries, according to the CDC report. That's based on data about respiratory disease-related hospitalizations gathered by almost 500 hospitals in those countries from March to July of this year. The shots reduced the risk of flu hospitalizations by an estimated 52%, which puts their effectiveness in the same ballpark as those used in the northern hemisphere during the 22 to 23 flu season. Efficacy against hospitalizations rose to 70% among kids aged 6 and younger and fell to about 38% among adults in their 60s and older, according to the new report. There's no guarantee what happens in the southern hemisphere will repeat itself in the northern hemisphere, but experts often use the earlier flu season to predict what's to come for the rest of the world. And since the vaccine used in the northern hemisphere this year is similar to the one used in the southern hemisphere, the early efficacy estimates are encouraging. The CDC report also holds another piece of important information for people in the U.S. Flu season began early in the countries included in the report, which means people in the U.S. should, in a potential repeat of last season, be prepared for the same. Health authorities typically recommend getting your flu shot by the end of October, particularly if you're at high risk for severe disease due to age or underlying health conditions. An updated COVID-19 booster will also roll out this fall, along with, for the first time, an RSV vaccine approved for certain groups of vulnerable people. Like last year, you should be able to get your flu and COVID-19 vaccines at the same time to go into the winter illness season as protected as possible. So, the flu shot is based on the best possible information at the time it is decided on what strains of flu are moving around and are likely to cause the most hurt, strain, and death. The good news is that if you are in need of one this year for the 2025 to 2026 season, you should be able to get one. The ACIP was able to meet this year to hammer it out in spite of concern that RFK Jr. was going to fuck it all up. 14 minutes to go.
All right, so let's actually jump in and look at the insert for the flu vaccine. And I also want to be clear, like, it changes every year what they're potentially putting into it, as we know, because they're trying to guess what variant there's going to be. But the warnings don't actually change from year to year. I've looked, and it is just stunning to me. Now, I just want you to buckle yourself. Actually, just kind of to bring yourself back to the first episode of Shot in the Dark, when I said to you, what is so bizarre to me with parents that go and get these vaccines is the risk assessment that happens in their minds, right? They're so fearful of their child getting sick. They're so fearful of their child having a cold that they're willing to risk their child having a seizure. Like, it'll be on the package insert, like, this could cause a seizure, as I've showed you in past episodes, not pertaining to flu vaccine, but other vaccines, that seems like a reasonable trade-off to your child getting a cold. That really should speak to you about the simulation that we are in, about how powerful propaganda is, that they can make you so fearful of something that your body can fight off and you will be fine, like a cold, a common cold, but you're just like, I'm going to feel protected and I'm willing to risk my child getting a seizure and potentially never walking again because, God forbid, they get this cold. That's mind-boggling to me. And the flu virus is one of these things where if you've had the flu and you know that you can get over the flu, what would be the purpose that you would take these sorts of risks? So just to go...
No, and fuck no. Measles, polio, and pretty much all the rest are very real and scary illnesses that are not like shrugging off a common cold, and the incidence of people that don't just die from contracting them, but also have lifelong issues from having had them, does pale against the very rare side effect risk of taking a vaccine that keeps the very dangerous illness in question at bay. And before I allow her to go on, people such as Candace scoffed at the rising COVID-19 death toll in 2020 and would tell anyone that they could about how it wasn't that bad because the flu killed more people every year. So they know and are very aware that people can and do die of influenza worldwide, that it is easy to contract, and that even if it doesn't kill a person, it can wreck their finances if they have to miss work or risk the lives of others if they have to go into work because calling out isn't an option, and now they are exposing everyone to their strain on top of pushing their body when they should be resting. But in addition to all of this, I want to also point out that people die of the common cold as well, and it spreads easily, so her argument against flu vaccines is bullshit. Fucking absurd as always. Before we go on, Candace is about to talk a bit about Guillain-Barre Syndrome. I'm trying to say it right. There's a reason. Also known as GBS. She has mentioned it before as a risk of other vaccines, and I realize that we have not really talked about it before. GBS is, first off, actually pronounced Guillain-Barre Syndrome, but moving past that, people do call it Guillain-Barre. So this description is from nih.gov in the link stack, and it says briefly, GBS is a rare neurological disorder in which a person's immune system mistakenly attacks part of their peripheral nervous system, the network of nerves that carries signals from the brain and spinal cord to the rest of the body. GBS begins suddenly and can increase in intensity over a period of hours, days, or weeks until certain muscles cannot be used at all. Some cases of GBS are very mild and only marked by brief weakness. Others cause nearly devastating paralysis, leaving the person unable to breathe on their own. In these cases, the disorder is life-threatening, potentially interfering with breathing, blood pressure, or heart rate. Fortunately, most people eventually recover from even the most severe cases of GBS. After recovery, people may continue to have some weakness. Symptoms of Guillain-Barre Syndrome. Weakness. The weakness seen in GBS usually comes on quickly and worsens over hours or days. Often, feet are affected first, and weakness may move up the body to eventually impact the legs, arms, face, and breathing muscles. The person may first notice unexpected difficulty climbing stairs or walking. Less commonly, symptoms start in the face and move down to the legs and feet. Most people reach the greatest stage of weakness within the first 2 weeks after symptoms appear. By the third week, 90% of affected people are at their weakest. Sensation changes. In GBS, the brain may receive abnormal sensory signals from the rest of the body due to the nerve damage associated with the condition. This results in unexplained spontaneous sensations called paresthesias that the person may feel as tingling, a sense of insects crawling under the skin called formications, and pain. Some people with GBS feel a deep muscular pain in the back and or legs. Unexplained sensations often happen first, such as tingling in the feet or hands, or even pain, especially in children, often starting in the legs or back. Children will also begin to have difficulty walking and may refuse to walk. These sensations tend to disappear before the major longer-term symptoms appear. Other symptoms of Guillain-Barre Syndrome may include difficulty with eye muscles and vision, difficulty swallowing, speaking, or chewing, pricking or pins and needles on the hands and feet, pain that can be severe, particularly at night, coordination problems and unsteadiness, abnormal heart rate or blood pressure, problems with digestion and or bladder control. The body's nerves have a central conducting core called the axon that carries an electric signal. The axon is surrounded by an insulating layer or sheath called myelin. The myelin sheath surrounding the axon speeds up the transmission of nerve signals and allows the transmission of signals over long distances. In the most common type of GBS, called acute inflammatory demyelinating polyradiculoneuropathy, or AIDP, that's cool. The immune system damages the myelin sheath. And two other types of GBS, called acute motor axonal neuropathy, AMAN or AMAN, and acute motor sensory axonal neuropathy, AMSAN, AMSAN.
AMSAN.
The immune system may damage the axons themselves. As a result, the nerves cannot transmit signals efficiently, and the muscles begin to lose their ability to respond to the brain's commands, which causes weakness and abnormal or no reflexes. There is more information about it at the link I am providing in the link stack, but I just wanted to cover the basics before we move on. GBS is serious, and while it can be a risk with any vaccine, it is extremely rare, happening often in less than 1 in a million people that get any vaccine.
That's a pretty good number.
Yeah, like the number is like 0.7% of people on average.
Shit, that's not that bad.
Yeah. And the severity varies, of course, but it is actually something that can be treated and you can get past. Mm-hmm. If it ever even occurs. So, here's the next clip.
For this, they start recommending the flu vaccine when your child is 6 months old. They start recommending 2 doses. For children that are aged 6 months through 35 months, they're recommending 2 doses, 1 or 2 doses, and then you can see you jump down from 36 months through to 8 years. They recommend that you still keep up with 2 doses of the flu shot. Huge moneymaker if you're thinking of it that way. But the thing that is on all of these different inserts, because it's a different flu vaccine that's recommended for older people than if you're older than 65 years old, than if you're younger than 65 years old, is the remarkable warning for Guillain-Barre Syndrome. So let's just go ahead and read that, because it is mind-boggling to me that this seems like a trade-off for some people. Guillain-Barre Syndrome, the warning here says, the 1976 swine influenza vaccine was associated with an elevated risk of Guillain-Barre Syndrome. Evidence for a causal relationship of GBS with other influenza vaccines, you got it, guys, is inconclusive.
And that is why I read the last bit that I did. Now, let's address the 1976 flu vaccine. The increased risk of GBS was about 1 person per 100,000 people that got the vaccine, up from less than 1 per million. So that's a literal 10-fold increase.
Yeah.
Which is a massive increase. So the flu vaccine program was suspended that year, which is proof that the system in place to halt it was working.
Yeah.
You know? Now, Candace is going to say some straight bullshit about polio and GBS before she reads from the CDC website.
Of course.
I mean, we are seeing a trend, but it's inconclusive. We can't say that we're causing the Guillain-Barre Syndrome, which, as I told you in the past episode of polio, they reclassified polio as Guillain-Barre Syndrome when they wanted to artificially decrease the number of polio cases that they were saying. They were suddenly like, Guillain-Barre Syndrome is different from polio and totally different. But that's incredible that this warning exists on all of the inserts, both for older people and for younger people, our nation's most vulnerable, without question. And I want to just make sure you guys know what Guillain-Barre Syndrome actually is. This is directly from the CDC website. It's a rare disorder where the body's immune system damages nerve. The damage to the nerves cause muscle weakness and sometimes paralysis. While its cause is not fully understood, the syndrome often follows infection with a virus or a bacteria. Now, I just want to be clear that the flu virus that they're inserting into you these are dead particles. You don't have to worry whatsoever. And so if your child gets Guillain-Barre Syndrome and you're wondering how that could have happened if there was a causal relationship, you should know that it's inconclusive. That's what the science says. It's inconclusive. But they have decided to put this warning on every single flu vaccine. And we also discussed about paralysis, polio, the reclassification of all of this, and what I believe to be a very clear correlation to the fact that they know that anytime you are dealing with autoimmune reactions, a body's immune response, they're saying that this is a rare disorder where the body's immune system damages the nerve. The question that you have to ask is, why is the immune system suddenly being so hyperactive? What is the immune system being introduced to? Well, your immune system is supposed to fight things that are foreign to it. Things that are being created in a lab are going to be something that is foreign to it. Your body is going to go, what is this? And when you're dealing with a precious child, a 6-month-old baby, yeah, you can imagine everything's perfect, everything's working, and then you're throwing in, to be very clear, dead bacteria and viruses into the mix, deactivated viruses into the mix, and you're going, I don't know what happened here. We were saving lives, and maybe there's just something wrong with your perfect child. That's what we are seeing here. And to know that they always say it's inconclusive when the science could possibly show that they're doing something wrong is something that shouldn't comfort you. It's just something that should make your antenna go up and go, what the heck is going on here? Why is it always inconclusive when it looks like maybe you're doing something wrong, and like maybe my child was actually healthy before this took place? So yes, that is a warning that you will see over and over and over again. If we just skip through to adverse reactions.
Why skip though?
Hold on. She hasn't said which insert she is on.
Yeah.
But I want to also address the inconclusive bit that she loves to focus on and go on about. The following information is from an article on the Children's Hospital of Philadelphia website, the awesomely acronymed CHOP.
Yeah.
Link included in the link stack, of course. But from the information, directly from the website, the notion that Guillain-Barre Syndrome, I am getting fond of saying it correctly now that I know, could be a consequence of vaccination, was born of the swine influenza vaccine program administered in the United States in 1976. At the time, the estimated risk of GBS following receipt of the swine flu vaccine was estimated to be about 1 per 100,000 recipients. Since that time, the relationship between influenza vaccine and GBS has been variable. For example, Canadian researchers assessed the risk of GBS after seasonal influenza vaccination in Ontario, Canada, between 1993 and 2011. They found that the risk of GBS within 6 weeks of an influenza illness was much greater than after influenza vaccination. Okay? Mm-hmm. They found that the risk of GBS within 6 weeks of an influenza illness was greater than after being vaccinated.
Yeah.
The attributable risks were 1 GBS admission per million vaccinations, compared with 17 GBS admissions per million influenza infections. The risk was literally over 17 times greater
than not doing
it. And
yeah.
that's also having gotten the fucking flu. So not only did you get sick, you got fucked.
And not in a nice way.
Not in the way that you pay for in Vegas, unless you're a you know what? I'm not even going to call it a sicko. I'm not going to kink shame. I'm not going to kink shame on this, right? But going on. Therefore, one could reasonably argue that influenza vaccine prevents GBS. Unfortunately, people with a history of GBS are often under the impression that they cannot get the influenza vaccine, but the recommendations by the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention only suggest a precaution for influenza vaccination if someone developed GBS within 6 weeks of receipt of a vaccine, of an influenza vaccine. A precaution means that the patient and their healthcare provider should weigh the relative risks and benefits of the vaccine versus disease to decide which is the less risky choice. Other people with a history of GBS, such as GBS that did not occur within 6 weeks of getting an influenza vaccine, can receive the influenza vaccine. Similar recommendations are in place for tetanus-containing vaccines. If a person developed GBS within 6 weeks of receipt of a tetanus-containing vaccine, they have a precaution related to future receipt of tetanus-containing vaccines. But if their bout of GBS did not occur within 6 weeks of a tetanus vaccination, they can be vaccinated. While the shingles vaccine, Shingrix, and the Johnson & Johnson/Janssen COVID-19 vaccines have both been associated with GBS on occasion, specific recommendations related to history of GBS are not in place. In the case of shingles vaccine, this is because of age differences between recommended vaccine receipt and increased risk of GBS. In the case of COVID-19, Johnson & Johnson/Janssen vaccine, the risk is minimal. However, people with a history of GBS may opt to receive an mRNA version of COVID-19 vaccine. Individuals with history of GBS may wish to discuss the risks and benefits of the Johnson & Johnson/Janssen vaccine with their healthcare provider. Additional studies, such as those listed below, showed that current routinely used versions of MMR, measles, mumps, rubella, HPV, meningococcal conjugate, polio, pneumococcal, varicella, Hib, rabies, hepatitis A, and hepatitis B vaccines are not associated with an increased risk of GBS. So I hope that helped clear it up. GBS is listed on everything as a matter of precaution, but it is almost always inconclusive because there is often no known risk or a very rare risk associated with any vaccine. It is precautionary boilerplate lingo. It is not necessarily a warning. I mean, such as being outside carries a risk of being struck by an object from the sky. Do you stop going outside?
I mean, all of them also have the condition of death on there.
Yeah.
Because you could find out that you're allergic to whatever's in there, and you might die from it.
Well,
but
there's also... Death is often an inconclusive thing because it's not always immediately clear if a vaccine caused a patient's death or not.
Yeah, that too.
And usually there's underlying issues that they're like, well, okay, it happened here, but it hasn't happened there.
Yeah.
And if someone dies after getting a vaccine and it gets put into VAERS, well, in the next print of the thing, that will be a listed cause of concern, but not a thing that necessarily was even attributed to it.
Yeah.
You know, because if you can directly attribute a death to it, then that's when shit is supposed to stop.
Yeah.
And be studied. You know, like, okay, well, what was unique about this patient
that they ended up perishing?
Yeah. Yeah. So, you know, if a heavier, dense enough object can still take you out on a building as well, it doesn't mean that it will happen.
No.
This is the same risk level that she is blowing up to epic proportions. It is fucking absurd. 8 minutes to go. And she finally mentions the damn flu shot insert. Now, I had a choice to make with this episode. I chose to provide both insert links in the link stack and to engage honestly with the one that she is using, which is from 2022 to 2023. And I included in the link stack the current one for this year, 2025 to 2026. They were both easy to find. I didn't have to worry about the FBI swatting the house because I looked at a fucking vaccine insert. I didn't use any pirated sources. I didn't go to the library and jump on a VPN and then look for the vaccine insert. You can find this shit. It's okay. The government provides it on websites.
Intentionally.
Now, yeah. Yeah, because you're supposed to have access to it. Now, here's the next clip.
What this particular one that we're looking at is called a Fluzone quadrivalent. It talks about the fact that what the most common things that they see, common solicited systemic adverse reactions were irritability, abnormal crying, malaise, drowsiness, appetite loss, myalgia, vomiting, and fever. It's crazy to me that parents have grown accustomed to thinking that that's normal because I've never vaccinated my children and I've never taken them to a doctor's office, had them be poked, brought them back, and then suddenly had a sick child. It amazes me that parents allow doctors to normalize that to them. Oh yeah, I know, you're okay. He stopped eating for a few days. He's drowsy. He's vomiting. That's all good. We're making him healthy. Does that feel a little crazy to you? Oh, I'm just taking you to like my healthy child that I'm giving to you. You're giving me back a sick child and promising me that in the end, I did the right thing. In the end, you did the right thing because this very low effective flu thing, the flu vaccine that we're giving you, which we can't even promise you is going to prevent your child from getting the flu.
Okay, let's talk about adverse reactions again. Okay, so adverse reactions to this occurred in less than half of patients in the studies that tested it, down to 14% of patients. It's a little more than half of patients. Anyway, that list and the percentages are in young children from 6 months to 35 months, irritability, 54%, abnormal crying, 41%, malaise, 38%.
Melees?
Yeah, like just like feeling kind of low, you know.
Okay,
Like,
not
like your kid's like, I'm 3 years old and I've experienced nothing in life, and I feel depressed like a Frenchman, you know.
Okay, so not a child getting physically violent and getting into like a fight pit with Brad
No, that would
Pitt.
be falling under irritability.
Okay.
Now, if your kid is irritable and nihilistic for a few days, they're just a Gen Xer. That's all you're raising, you know. Anyway, moving on. Malaise is 38%, right? Drowsiness, 38%.
All right.
So yeah, so they're depressed but they're sleepy. All right. Appetite loss, 32%. Maybe your cooking sucks. Myalgia, 27%. Okay. Pain, unexplained pain. All right. I get where that would suck.
Yeah.
Vomiting, 15%. Yeah.
It's a baby.
Yeah.
I mean, they kind of that's kind of one of the things.
Maybe your milk sucks. Fever, 14%. Now, the numbers vary, but are about the same on these lists from year to year to year. And most of the time, these reactions do not always occur on the day of the shot. Mm-hmm. But often, if they do come on, it's within 3 days of the shot, and they don't last for more than 3 days at the most. So, you know, like, kid gets the shot, mm-hmm. Their arm hurts, that's understandable.
Yeah.
You know, they're a little pissed about it. Maybe their system's kind of treats it kind of fucky and they throw up a bit.
Yeah.
Okay, you know, like, it sucks, but I'd rather have them be healthy. Anyway.
Yeah.
I would argue that the low risk of these put up against getting a killer or almost killer flu sound pretty damn good.
Yeah.
And another hard number that Candace doesn't want to discuss is that year over year, flu shot uptake can be seen to reduce hospitalizations and diagnosis from influenza by a staggering 50 to 55% of the population in an area where uptake is high, compared to much higher numbers of hospitalizations when it is low. But really, for someone like Candace, who claims that she got the flu several months after getting a flu shot, and claims that the flu nearly killed her, to push back against flu shots with a mountain of data showing how effective they can be at reducing the flu in the general population shows how cruel she can be. I think this is mostly due to her contracting affluenza upon marrying into money and no longer being able to identify in any goddamned good way with the rest of us rank and file people in society. Her kids will likely never ride a bus, sit in coach or business class, or pack into a subway car until they are adults. They will not know the risk the rest of us face in dealing with the general public on a daily basis, and the risk posed to the rest of us by easily communicable diseases. Let alone the most vulnerable among us, which are children and the elderly, but also anyone that cannot actually get a vaccine for real reasons. And now, she is going to do the thing where she pretends to care, but is really being a mean person and using the worst possible understanding of this material.
Which we spell it out right here in 5.4. It says vaccination with Fluzone may not protect all recipients. So sorry about that. Your child got a headache. He won't eat. He potentially might get Guillain-Barre Syndrome. He's got swelling and complete appetite loss and vomiting, all to potentially not even be protected at all. Because this is guesswork. We have no idea if this is even going to be the right flu virus strain. But you should feel good. Mom, Dad, you totally did the right thing. What an absolute big pharma warp of our minds. Honestly, parents, you have to just think through this stuff realistically. It is not, in my view, a good trade-off to risk your child having paralysis to be likely not at all protected from the flu virus. I would take my chances of not getting the flu virus because I'm never, ever getting the flu shot ever again. And neither will my children ever be subjected to that. And we'll just have to work through what sort of trouble that causes us when they're in school and they're in sports when they get a little bit older.
Just a real quick note. I have never heard of any athletic thing for kids or school thing actually requiring kids or anyone to have flu shots.
No.
Of the many things that are mandatory, this has not, in my experience, been one of them. For anything. It is always suggested, but never mandatory anywhere. But now, Candace is going to go down a slightly different road with about 6 minutes left.
I also wanted to point this out to you because it doesn't get discussed enough. Now, the older people are given a different shot for the flu virus, and what's stunning about looking into the inserts for the FluAd quadrivalent, not to be confused with the Fluzone one that I just read to you. We look at the inserts for the FluAd, which is for people that are older than 65 years old. The stuff that it says, it gets even more bizarre because first and foremost, it says obviously the warning that it could cause Guillain-Barre Syndrome. It says if Guillain-Barre Syndrome has occurred within 6 weeks of receipt of a prior influenza vaccine, the decision to give FluAd quadrivalent should be based on careful consideration of the potential benefits and the risks. Again, evidence for a causal relationship of GBS with other influenza vaccines is inconclusive. If an excess risk exists, it is probably slightly more than one additional case per 1 million persons vaccinated. So they're telling you that you shouldn't have to worry about it, but then you jump into these post-marketing experiences for older people, vasculitis, encephalomyelitis, Guillain-Barre syndrome, convulsions, neuritis, paresthesia, fainting, dizziness, muscular weakness, pain in the extremity. The reason why I'm bringing this up is because this entire show we talk about your children, children that are so vulnerable, obviously, relying on their parents for help. But older people are the same. They are equally as vulnerable, and this really deeply troubles me and upsets me because I am convinced that my grandfather died much sooner than he would have because he was subjected to getting the COVID vaccine. I spent Thanksgiving of 2020 with my grandfather. He was of sound mind. He obviously was getting older, but was talking to my grandfather, read him the book that I dedicated to him. If you know anything about me, you know how much I absolutely adored my grandparents when they were on this earth, and how so much of the person I am today is because of my grandparents. And my grandfather then was very much abused by the medical system, as many people were throughout the time of COVID, and they were recommending older people to get the shots. After my grandfather got the COVID vaccine, when I say his health declined, spending Thanksgiving with him in 2020 to my grandfather being dead the following September, his memory was like completely wiped, and there were so many people that were talking about working in homes and seeing older people get this vaccine, and suddenly they were suffering from very severe forms of Alzheimer's or dementia, like just a complete collapse, and nobody listened. And I remember reading these tweets and reading people talking about it on Facebook and saying, this is what happened to my grandfather. And what happened was a nurse asked him if he wanted the COVID vaccine, didn't speak to any of his caretakers. He was given it, and his health just completely declined. He was an entirely different man after he got those COVID shots, and there was no person on the planet that will tell me that he was not impacted by getting those COVID shots. Extremely sad situation, and it frustrates me because, as I said, nobody talks about how the medical system knows that it can abuse older people in the same way that they know that they can blame your child on you. Well, your child was already not walking and talking, so your child was just born wrong. We didn't do anything. They can do the same thing to older people, because then what they say is, well, your grandfather was 70 and this is what happens. People start to decline after 70. It is the unbelievable gaslighting. I know who my grandfather was. I know what kind of health he was in. I know what kind of conversation I was having with him. His mind completely went and declined after getting these vaccines.
That was 3.5 minutes. So, anyone want to guess how old her grandfather was when he died? Here's a hint. It was not 70 years old.
92.
No.
Oh.
But also, included in the link stack, is a study done by the NIH on persons such as her granddad that received COVID vaccines in 2020. For people with dementia or similar such as Alzheimer's, their quality of life actually generally improved. But the vaccination did not worsen anyone's health. I want to point out that her grandfather, the man, worked hard jobs for most of his life.
Mm-hmm.
If his story through her is to be believed, he was sharecropping at the age of 6.
Yeah.
And I have seen his public employment record.
Yeah.
I won't share what I have seen. It's not bad stuff. Just seems private anyway, even though I found it on public resource websites. He worked a lot of hard jobs, and he lived well, from what I could tell from a public record search. That is to say, he had a full and hard life, and he died at age 79.
I mean, that's pretty damn good.
Not 70, yeah.
Yeah.
Candace often says that he was 70 when he passed, and she is always wrong about that. But she is right that he passed in September of 2021. He got a COVID vaccine in October 2020 and died nearly a year later.
How do you fuck that up?
The COVID vaccine did not kill him. Life just caught up.
Yeah.
I would like to know, if this was all such a big deal to her, if his security and everything was such a big deal to her, why didn't she and her millionaire husband have the man placed in a facility that he wouldn't get vaccinated in, or be on call to make those choices for him?
Yeah.
A lot of shit doesn't add up. Or as Candace loves to say, and I'll say it again, the math ain't mathin', y'all. But she isn't done with the FluAd insert just yet. Just a little bit on that vaccine. It is basically the same formulation as Fluzone, except that FluAd contains adjuvants to enhance the immune response in older patients whose bodies may not notice the vaccine otherwise.
Okay.
It's the same recipe with an enhancement. You know, the same can be said of Fluzone High version, which is another version of this. It's the same recipe, but now it has whipped cream, basically.
Whipped cream.
You know? Like, you might look past all the slices of pumpkin pie, but you see the one that has whipped cream.
You know what? That's fair.
You know?
Yeah.
Anyway, she has a little more to say on it.
Or apple pie and American cheese.
Apple pie with American cheese is a godsend.
Oh, yeah.
Here's something, before I play the next clip. Those of you who are so blessed with having a Waffle House near you, let me give you a little piece of advice. This is something that you can do. And Waffle House employees, in my experience, are so fucking used to this request, they will not bat an eye. The waitress will sigh and think to herself, oh great, another one, so tip well. Don't make a bad name for those of us that ask for this. Anyway, it's going to sound gross, but I guarantee you try it once, you're going to be down for life. Now, I did not come up with this. I got the idea from the excellent Robert De Niro film Taxi Driver. In Taxi Driver, he goes into a diner. He orders a slice of apple pie with a slice of American cheese melted on top. This means that they put the slice of apple pie on the griddle, they put a slice of American cheese on it, just long enough for it to melt. So what you get out of that is you get a warm slice of apple pie with a slice of American cheese on it. Now, if you've ever had cheese and apples, you know how good this can be. That is an unholy combination that I wish sucked, but is actually very, very good.
I, too, wish it sucked, but it is indeed good.
Yeah. You know, he didn't want to believe until one day I was like, come on, just try a bite. Try a bite before I devour this thing. Just try a bite. And he was like, oh, shit. And I was like, I'll order you one.
Yeah.
So if you are so blessed with a diner near you, and again, Waffle House, they know the drill. They're not concerned. Some other place might be concerned. And then you got to justify it by going, I saw it in Taxi Driver and I just want to try it. Or I heard these idiots on a podcast from Minneapolis talking about and I just want to try it because they sold it so well. Honestly, it's great. It's a great enhancement. It's an excellent way to spend $4 or $5. But yeah, apple pie on the griddle hot. So you're going to get it warm with a slice of American cheese melted on top of it. It is fucking nuts. I love it.
You know what? It's something I love about a lot of American diners.
Yeah.
Is the fact that you can go in and they will hand you a menu, but you can still go, can I just get grits and eggs? And if grits and eggs is not on their goddamn menu, they will still make you a plate of grits and eggs. Will the waitress sigh at you? Yes, because now she's got to go talk to the chef, and the chef is going to probably explode. Or, hi, Squish.
Or he's going to be like, I took grits off the menu. What the fuck?
Yeah.
And then she's going to be like, yeah, but like we got grits. We're going to make this man some grits. Yeah. Yes.
Unlike you, I've got a child to support. So you're gonna do what this man wants.
I guarantee you, the diner cook has 4 illegitimate kids.
Oh yeah, likely.
Yeah. like he didn't even. They're not even his. They just arrived. They arrived like Jesus in the world. Yeah. That all said, we have a diner here.
Yeah.
Called the Lowry Diner.
Oh yeah.
Oh my God. Those people, those awesome people. I have not done the apple pie with American cheese on it there because apple pie is not on the menu.
Sure.
But God help them if it ever is. That said, Lowry Diner, excellent little spot. I haven't had a bad thing on the menu. I recommend them entirely. Even if all you need is like a latte, they will make you a fresh, I mean, you get a fresh latte at Starbucks, but these guys have old school equipment, and so you get a really good fucking latte from them. Otherwise, I drink their coffee black. It's great. I can't recommend that place enough. It's awesome.
Oh yeah, no, and they're really nice people. Real cornerstone of the community over there.
Yeah, real cool little spot. Like it feels like you've walked into an old like not a Hollywood diner, but like it feels like the kind of place you could do illegitimate deals in and still get a good meal.
Yeah.
You know?
Definitely, have recommended it to some buddies that are in unions when they're bitching about, union meets being at McDonald's. I'm just like, go to the Lowry.
Yeah.
Wear a nice suit. Show up,
Yeah.
Start talking like a fucking 30s thug. That they won't kick you out. They'll just be like, okay, my friend.
Yeah. Yeah. Like I said, I cannot recommend the place enough. Love it. Love it, love it, love it.
Oh, yeah.
Like, it's so good. The food there is so good, and the price is so good that even if we moved 30 minutes away, I would go there to get breakfast food.
Oh, yeah. Definitely.
It's fucking great. The Lowry Cafe. Can't recommend them highly enough. Anyway, next clip.
And when you look at this particular insert, what's really interesting, under Section 8, it says there were no developmental toxicity studies of FluAd quadrivalent performed in animals. Okay, that's absolutely wild, but then it goes on to kind of contradict this by saying that a developmental toxicity study has been formed in female rabbits that were administered FluAd prior to mating and during gestation, because they're speaking specifically about pregnancy. But the main point that I want to focus on is the fact that there were no developmental toxicity studies of the FluAd quadrivalent that was performed in animals, just, amongst, for the safety of the regular population. It also says here that FluAd quadrivalent is not approved for use in persons that are less than 65 years old, that there is insufficient human data to establish whether there is a vaccine-associated risk with the use of FluAd quadrivalent in pregnancy. If you go down to segment 8.4 and you look at pediatric use, it says safety and effectiveness of FluAd and FluAd quadrivalent were evaluated in clinical trials conducted in children that were 6 months to 72 months of age. Data from these trials are inconclusive to demonstrate the safety and effectiveness of FluAd quadrivalent in children 6 months to 72 months of age. So this is incredible. They're saying we are not saying this is safe and effective for pregnant women. We are not saying it's safe and effective for pediatric use. But you know what? Give it to grandma and grandpa. See how they fare. It is not approved for me to take this version of the flu shot because I'm under 65. Am I allowed to ask the question of why the hell you would approve for people that are over 65?
Fuck you, Candace.
Was it really that long in the script?
I did, yeah. That's what I
Oh,
named the
yeah.
clip.
Yeah, okay.
From the top, she intentionally fucks up the bit about animal testing. It does say that FluAd quadrivalent was not tested on animals, but FluAd trivalent, which is not available for the general public, was tested on rabbits.
Mm-hmm.
I did not look into why this is. She intentionally skipped the trivalent bit because it was in parentheses.
Of course.
Moving on, FluAd data is inconclusive for children and pregnant women because pregnant women weren't tested with it because they aren't supposed to be taking it, and since most women aged 65 and above probably aren't having kids normally, then a drug for that age group is not intended for women that can or want to get pregnant. This is a non-issue for that group of persons. As for kids 6 months to 72 months of age, they were tested, but the data was inconclusive. Kids younger than 6 months and older than 72 months were not tested. It doesn't say why, but my guess is that it was done as a scenario where FluAd was the only option. Anyway, Candace sucks for her take on this because it is deliberately misleading.
Mm-hmm.
I am, of course, including the link for this version of FluAd in the link stack. Candace will finish out the show by demonstrating that she doesn't understand why the vaccines for olds are different for everyone not an old.
Are they stronger than somebody that's 34 years old? Are they more capable than somebody that's 35 years old? Or are you also experimenting on our nation's most vulnerable in the elderly population? these are questions that everybody should ask and you don't think about this. You don't think about the elderly in the same way that you don't think about the babies. You just assume that, oh, everyone's just, wants to help them. And I find it to be the exact opposite. I'm fully invested in the conspiracy that they know that they can get away with these things on both end of the spectrum. Super young and individuals that are old, and both whom are completely defenseless, in my view. All right, guys, we have already come up against time that flew by, probably because I didn't stop talking at you because I really missed doing a shot in the dark. But that is unfortunately all the time that we have for today. As always, all of the links and the resources will be posted onto our show Instagram page. The handle is at ShotInTheDarkDW. Thank you guys for joining me. We'll see you next time.
Free at last. And with that, we are done. She sucks. Just the worst possible person for this outside of RFK Jr., because he is out there shaping policy with this kind of crap floating around in his wetware. Let's drink something foreign.
All right. This one is Saparavi. I did not do the translator on this one. Palinka Saparavi. But seeing as how it has a fucking grape picture on it in the middle of a lemon and apple orchard on the picture. Yeah.
Yeah, that appears to be a lemon tree.
And an apple tree.
And that appears to be an apple tree.
With a grape in the middle.
Yeah. Cartoonishly perfect apple trees and lemon trees from what we've actually seen of them.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Saparavi carbonated soft drink.
Yep.
16.9 ounces, 500 milliliters, and what's the shit on the back?
Shit on the back is complete English, thankfully. That's why I didn't run a translator over it.
Right.
It's a product of Russia. I could get into all the nutritional facts, but I don't see the point.
Right.
Ingredients: carbonated water, sugar, citric acid, artificial flavor, beet juice concentrate.
Yummy yum.
Artificial caramel color, and sodium benzoate. Keep in a cool, dry place away from direct sunlight. Perfect that it's kept in my room, then.
Yeah.
Considering the fact that I have blackout curtains.
Right.
Okay, well, it didn't fizzle to...
No fizzies. All right, put it near the microphone.
Whoa. Okay, give that a whiff while it's in the bottle. It's a pretty good smell.
It smells almost like grape juice.
Yeah. Pours like...
It's got some fizzies on the pour. Give him that one.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Yep.
Squish, whatever you do, don't do what you did the other day with my fucking soda.
Yeah.
Stay in my lap.
Right.
The other day I had a root beer on my bed. And it was perfectly fine, perfectly sound. And then she decided to jump into the one spot where it would tip over.
Yes. Wow, this actually smells pretty good.
It smells really good.
You know, it sucks that Russia has lost like I think 1.1 million people in the war.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, in the attack they've been doing on Ukraine.
Mm-hmm.
It really sucks because we've gotten a lot of great Russian like sweets and treats.
Yeah.
And it's like, man, why can't y'all just stick to this shit?
Yeah.
Fucking Putin. Anyway.
They've got an amazing market if they just actually sold it and stopped acting like it's still the Cold War.
Yeah, fucking dicks. At any rate. Wow. That is quite good.
It's like...
I definitely taste the beet juice. Though.
Yeah. Like it's a beet grape juice.
Yeah, it's like yeah, it's like a beet grape juice, yeah. Well, like how like sometimes, you'll get like a white apple or a white grape juice here. Yeah. And it'll have like apple juice or something else, maybe pear juice mixed in.
Yeah.
So it's not straight grape. Yeah, this is about that strength.
Yeah.
I think the beet juice is probably also there for color.
Yeah, because it is really red, but there's no
There's
red.
no artificial. There's no like red 40 or anything.
No, there's just caramel color is the only artificial thing.
And yeah, I mean, like I'm holding it up to light. It's definitely like that beet juice red for sure.
Oh yeah, that is definitely a red that you get from a beet juice.
But yeah, it's fucking excellent.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was crazy when it didn't like fizz when you opened it. It was a twist top. Mm-hmm. And I was like, oh man, is this one going to be flat?
Yeah.
It's still fizzy. Like I've still got a little bit left in mine, but
I just finished off mine then.
yeah, we can all hear it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm suitably impressed. Russia has done it again.
Yep. They're winning at something at least.
Right? They can't win a war against their smaller neighbor.
Yeah. While at the same time trying to threaten all of their other smaller neighbors that
There's mine. There's my contribution
are all
to the world.
betterly armed, and funnily enough, armed with their arms because they couldn't stow them in their own country.
Right?
I still thought it was rich when they threatened Belarus. They're going,
Yeah.
we'll strike you with our missiles if you don't help us by firing our missiles.
Right?
It's like, wait, you're threatening to kill us with the weapons that we're holding?
Yeah.
What? That's not how this works.
Yeah. That's not how this works. That's not how any of this works. Yeah. Fucking ticks. Well, I think that is it for now. Let's go ahead and call this one, and hopefully we can do this again in a couple of weeks.
Yep, without any delays again.
Yeah, without any delays, without any work delays or anything. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that was it.
Okay.
It's been fun, and I torture myself going through the week, but it's always with the knowledge that I'm gonna have some fun and hopefully enlighten some folks when we finally present the shit.
Mm-hmm.
God, Candace is just the worst, man.
Fuck,
She's terrible.
she spent 90% of that not even talking about the fucking flu.
Oh yeah, no. Trust me, I know. I kept looking at the time, and I was like, all right. At what point? At what point? Where? And then I couldn't quite remember. Like I listened to the first one, listened to it the first time, and I was like, finally when she got to it, I was like, my God, that was so much time in. And then I kind of forgot how long it was. I just knew it was a long time when I went back in to really do the work on the episode. Mm-hmm. And then I was just torturing myself, like, my God, how much further?
Yeah.
But yeah,
Well,
Candace is currently losing her mind with the Macron lawsuit and coming up with all sorts of conspiracy crap on Charlie Kirk's shooting.
Man.
It's going to be a long day until we get to that point. But yeah, she is like, people are burning her up on Twitter even, where she's been, since Elon took over, she kind of like had a bunch of thirsty fanboys, but even they're kind of like, what the fuck are you talking about?
Yeah, she's turning into Alex rapidly.
So much worse.
Yeah.
Worse even. Like, and, and with her, as it is with him, it's always a question of, do you believe this? Well, I have a tendency to think that, do you believe this? Are you making money on it? If they're making money on it, I can only tend to believe that they believe what they're saying because they believe in the money.
Yeah.
But when it comes to something that loses them money,
and they continue with it,
then maybe they're a believer or they're playing the long game.
Yeah.
In any case, it doesn't matter. It's all bullshit. She's terrible, and we will eventually get to all of her crap. But that's it for now. Y'all have a great day. I hope that we get to do this again in a couple weeks. Ciao and bye and be.
Goodbye. Guten Tag.